It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You have tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes pretty crazy. But it's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging conversations and critical analysis. Most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, Craig Jacobson. He's an assistant professor of finance at Colorado Christian University. He's going to help us understand what happened yesterday with the stock markets. It looks like we may be having a little bounce back coming today, at least if you use the Japanese markets as an indicator. We may be crawling a little bit back up from what happened yesterday, but is this a kind of harbinger of bigger things to come? And how might this affect the upcoming elections? We'll be looking at all of that in the 6 o'clock hour. And then Logan Washburn, elections correspondent with the Federalist, is going to join us to talk about, are the Zuckerbucks back? It looks like they are. He's done some research and will give us some insights to what they hope to achieve this year. If you remember, in 2020, they put a lot of money into turnout. It seemed like in predominantly more progressive areas. So what is he hoping to achieve this year? Logan will give us some insight into what Zuckerberg's doing with the upcoming election. So, and that plus all the Tina Peters updates that you're looking for on the trial she's facing on the Western Slope. So it's going to be a very busy morning, and we're keeping a close eye out, expecting an announcement from Kamala Harris today on her vice presidential pick. So we'll break that news to you as soon as it comes across our desk. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 66 and cloudy as we start the day, expecting a high of 94 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: federal officials in El Paso have relinquished custody of an alleged Venezuelan gang member they say is linked to that violent June 24th jewelry store robbery in Denver. Homeland Security investigations in Las Cruces, New Mexico, turned over the suspect to Denver County Sheriff's Department last week for transfer to Colorado. Oh, that's exciting. There are reports around the country of criminals being let out of prison in their home countries and instructed to wreak havoc and create hell here in America. And what does the left do? Well, they take your hard-earned money and my hard-earned money and bus them and feed them and house them and let them loose. This is what happened in Western Europe with the quote-unquote refugees from the Middle East. Thank you, Democrats and sanctuary cities, for creating all this. You created this with the open borders, and it was all preventable. And here we go. It's going to be exciting in the years to come. And it is an election year. And former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, she wanted to destroy White House cocaine evidence, according to Real Clear Politics. They say an agent was taken off the case after he wanted to follow a certain crime scene investigative protocol. Cheadle and Ron Rowe, who's now in Cheadle's position, you've seen and heard from him a few times in the past week, they wanted to cover up evidence. The Secret Service Forensic Service Division and the Uniform Division stood firm and rejected the push to dispose of the evidence, according to three sources in the Secret Service community. This comes as numerous questions continue to be asked about the assassination attempt and how in the world the 20-year-old was allowed to do what he did in Butler, Pennsylvania. Mainstream media is busy promoting Kamala Harris and who she will pick as VP. The real story, though, is the fact that she hasn't had a presser or taken a live question in over a month. It's been 15 days since Biden was forced out by one of the bullies, Nancy Pelosi, who was on CNN Monday.
Whether it's, well, the first bill that protect our assault, our bill,
COVID
shots in the arm, money in the pockets, children in school, people at work, the infrastructure bill, building in a way that is respectful of communities, chips and science.
Have you spoken to President Biden since he
No.
dropped out?
No, I have not.
Do you hope to?
Yes, I hope to.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Is everything okay with your relationship?
You'd have to ask him, but I hope
Okay.
so. But he knows. Look, I have loved Joe Biden, respected him for over 40 years.
Mhm.
I was party chair.
Whatever. Former President Trump hanging out with streamer Aiden Ross on Monday. The live streamer went live with 500,000 people watching. He gave Trump a Rolex and a Cybertruck with a wrap on it, showing Trump with his fist in the air and the flag behind him after the assassination attempt. Trump got in his new truck with Aiden, and they listened to the sound system.
Now this is cool.
That's very good.
I've never even seen you in a car before.
Not too many. that's look at the playlist, huh?
This is your playlist.
It's a good, yeah.
Your team picked out.
Yeah.
You want to pick a song? Let's test out this
So
sound system.
let's try it. And you know, some of the artists I like better than others, but I like the other song better. So it's always tough.
Who's like your top 3 artists?
Well, we love Frank Sinatra, right?
Of course.
And you know, there's a couple that I really like, but I don't like the people, so I don't want to really mention their name. But look at this list as an example. So it's such a great list. Aren't the Beatles always good?
Come on, they're the best.
Rolling Stones are always good.
And this weekend, Trump will be in Colorado for a big fundraising dinner here in the Front Range. The UN says 9.
Hey, Blake.
Yes.
Real quick on that. You know, we were
Yes.
talking about the fact that Trump hasn't been to Colorado since 2020, and he came
Right.
only one time.
Right.
And that was because Jen Ellis basically said, you gotta at least
Yep.
do a rally in Colorado Springs. And then I saw the fundraiser in Aspen.
Right.
You
It's in Aspen. Okay.
Yep.
I apologize.
it's a big fundraiser there.
You're going to be there?
I don't have 100,000 to drop
Yeah.
on a dinner.
Yep. So he must
with
have
DJT.
heard you on Monday.
Well, you know, and I know some of those folks have been trying to get him here for a while, but I'm a little disappointed that the one time we'll probably see him in Colorado, he's going to be in Aspen for a fundraiser.
Yeah, that kind of
You know,
bothers me.
come
But
on,
that's saying- I
you got
get
Gabe
it, though.
Evans. Maybe he'll
No,
come out.
that's
Maybe he'll
true.
do a rally. You got Gabe Evans up in
Mhm.
Congressional District 8. I don't
Yep.
think Jeff Hurd is going to align himself close with Trump at all. He's in Congressional District 3.
You got
He's going to
Lauren.
kind of stay away from all that. You do have Lauren. Lauren
Yeah.
could do it.
Yeah.
And you could
Do
have
something in
a nice
Windsor.
big rally out east too. So
Yeah, that's
I-
true. You could do it out east, or you could do it at the Budweiser. Let's see, they call it the Blue Arena now in northern Colorado. No, I think that's a good point. It kind of disappointed me, but I get it. I understand. I mean, what he has to do. Colorado is just. I mean, come on. But that
It
would
is a
be
mess.
cool. You think we could make that happen in the next? 2
Well, I
months?
hope so. You know, and I've always pressed Dave Williams on this that
Mhm.
you know, get him out here
Yeah.
because here's the thing, Blake. The Democrats, when it came to Colorado, invested years, decades ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
So 2008, when they came here for the DNC convention, 2008, Mile High Stadium, Barack Obama, Greek columns, that was all right here in Denver.
Right.
And at that point, we were pretty much a red state, leaning
true.
a little bit blue. So the Democrats made the state a priority. They put the
Mhm.
convention here. They came here. And, you know, there has not been a convention anywhere, an RNC convention anywhere in the Western United States since Bob Dole was the
Wow.
nominee in 1996 when it was in San Diego.
Yeah,
So
that's
Republicans have not made the West, let alone Denver, but the West a
Right.
priority. Glad to see the president's coming, but it's going to be
Boy,
to
that'd be
Aspen,
cool.
man. To
And
Aspen.
we've got to figure
Come on.
out something. Come on. Who would be that guy to get him here?
Well, well, I brought him in 2016. That was a
that
big
would
lift.
be you.
and then Dave Williams should, as the chairman of the party, be getting him here, but it doesn't
Yeah.
look like that's going to happen outside of a fundraiser in Aspen. So
All right. I'm not
you
going
know.
to give up hope here. We can figure out some. The UN says 9 staff members have been fired over their possible involvement in the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. The UN has not specified what role the staffers allegedly played in the attack. More than 1,200 people were killed, and Hezbollah still trying to destroy Jews. Aviv Rediger telling Hugh Hewitt this morning, think again.
They have been paying a tremendous cost, and they think that we will eventually leave this land, and that is literally how they talk. Nasrallah gave 3 speeches in the last month and said that. We have sticking power, they don't, and we are not demolishing our own country the way they are in order to destroy another country. So all of that comes to say, I don't know if this will spark a massive Israeli retaliation that will escalate into that terrible war, but I do know that Israel has more options than Hezbollah does, and by the time Hezbollah knows that, it'll be too late.
Investors on Wall Street hope today is better than Monday. CNBC's Jim Cramer tells David Faber, if you care about your paycheck, you'll go with Trump.
A lot of business people surrounding Harris. If you're in the stock market, if you care about your paycheck, you go with Trump. If that's what you do.
You do?
Yeah, well, he wants to cut your taxes.
Oh, he wants to cut taxes.
Your taxes.
My taxes got raised enormously,
Well,
as
no,
you
he
know,
wants
under
to
the
cut
last
that.
Trump
No,
administration.
I don't know if he wants to cut your president.
No. I'm in a blue state.
Oh, yeah, no, forget
wanna
you're
kill-
out.
they wanna
You're
kill
out.
us.
I tried to reorganize. I tried to go to.
Faber is lost, obviously. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 64 in Brighton, 63 in Lone Tree, 66 in Denver right now. Jeff and Bill continues. Jeff tries to get Trump here. We got to get him in here. We got to get him into Colorado. Get him back here. Terrific Tuesday. Right now, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture is increasing. Chances for showers and thunderstorms will be going up. Highs will be low to mid-90s today, afternoon and evening thunderstorms, mid to upper 60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Cooler, much cooler. Highs 70s with showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday and Friday. Weather is sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream annuities can provide. Guaranteed payments giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, yesterday was kind of a wild day if you were watching the stock markets. Yahoo Finance reporting U.S. stock markets fell sharply today. Two major and turmoil continued. A sudden global panic that began overnight Sunday, cratering the value of stocks, currencies, even cryptocurrencies, and raising the prospect that a broader downturn could be on the horizon, especially after a weak snapshot of the U.S. job market last week. The jobs report made the American economy look like it could be on a rockier footing than previously thought, and sparked bets that the Federal Reserve might have to cut interest rates sooner and more aggressively. Looks like overnight we may be getting a little bit of some better news as the Nikkei market, I think, came up about 10%. But I look at all this and I'm like, all right, I'm not a finance guy. I'm going to have some friends for some help. And joining us on the Jeff and Bill show is Craig Jacobson. He's an assistant professor of finance in the College of Undergraduate Studies at the School of Business and Leadership at Colorado Christian University. Craig has over 25 years of experience in finance. He began his career at Janus Capital Group in the mid-1990s. Craig, thanks so much for being on the program.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So give us a sense of your read of what happened yesterday. I know the jobs report came out on Friday. We had some analysis on the show about the jobs report, but then all of a sudden things started to look bad Friday afternoon. People were a little concerned over the weekend. Then the markets opened Monday morning and boom, they drop about 1,000 points. So in your analysis, what kind of happened over the weekend?
Yeah, in my opinion, it really wasn't so much the jobs number. That was the tinder or the spark that set it off. But we've reached some pretty excessive valuations on huge parts of the market. You know, things are pretty wildly out of control. Like the market cap of NVIDIA alone, the market capitalization, which is the value of the stock by itself, was $3.4 trillion from NVIDIA. It was pretty crazy. We've lost about 600 or 800 billion just on NVIDIA alone. So I think what we saw was just a natural correction. Just a healthy correction of the market. Get some fear back into people. I hate to say fear is healthy, but it is. We need to have some fear of losing money. We need to know what we're buying instead of just piling into stuff. And so that's what happened. We had a nice natural correction of the last few days. And yes, we are facing some global turbulence with war and some economic headwinds for sure. And inflation's not going away, despite what people say. But really, its valuations have gotten out of control in a lot of stocks. So people have gotten way too complacent. And we saw that with the volatility index. It was at an all-time low, which measures how much the market varies day by day. And that was at an all-time low. People were very complacent. So we saw a bit of a shock yesterday, which I think is healthy.
Now, the big kind of boogeyman out there is the R word, recession. From your analysis, do you think we're heading into a recession?
You know, I think we are kind of in a mini recession for a long time. Growth has been sluggish. We had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth a while back, and they said it wasn't a recession. And things have been sluggish for a while. I think normal people that live their lives every day kind of feel like we're in a recession. You know, people don't feel too confident, you know, and if we do get jobs, inflation's eating into our net income and things we can spend money on. And you go to Chick-fil-A or something that costs $40 now, which is crazy to feed your family. I never thought I'd see it. So I think we are in some sort of a economic doldrum right now, whether you call it a recession or not. And I just think it's got to play out. We got 7 more years of this, I think.
Really? And what do you think is kind of driving a lot of that? Is it government action? Is it government spending? Is it the economy itself? You mentioned we could be set up for many more years of that. What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, we have the Fed balance sheet is over $9 trillion. The Fed not just lowered rates, but also bought $9 trillion in assets, and not just treasuries, but mortgages and other things as well. So pretty crazy that $9 trillion, it's $9,000 billion in assets the Fed's in effect pumped into the economy to keep it out. And the problem with this money is it doesn't just hit everybody equally. So the $9 trillion isn't divided up among everybody. It goes into chunky spots like the stock market and real estate and things like that. And so as this money goes in the market, there's more money buying things, and so values just go up. And then, of course, we've had regulations increase tremendously, and minimum wages going up, that kind of stuff. So operators like Chick-fil-A and other things, they have no choice but to raise prices. So just because of labor costs and all this loose money flying around.
Oh, that's Craig. I'm not sure if I'm optimistic over the sense that we may not be where a crash heading like what we saw on Monday, because things are kind of bouncing up, or if we're just kind of in a long-term malaise as we try to get out of this. But I think your analysis is pretty spot on, because people don't really understand what's wrong, right? You kind of have to be in a position like you are to look at those types of details and go, okay, this is the reason why things aren't going as well maybe as they could economically. I've got 2 jobs. Everything seems to be more expensive. I've got to raise, $12,000-$14,000 just to live the same way I lived 4 or 5 years ago. So, but they don't quite understand why we're in a position like that. But I think you provide some good insight analysis. So your sense is that this is just going to continue for a while. I mean, do you have a prescription on what would improve things from your perspective as an analyst?
Yeah, I think we have to let things play out. I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but like when people get into drug habits and things like that, in effect, what really happens is, let's say you're into cocaine or something, you're pulling your happiness forward. You're taking that artificial high, and you're going to have to pay for it later. And so anyone who has a drug addiction can tell you that you end up paying for it in the long run. And, you have some momentary feeling of good, but you really got to pay the piper later. And that's what we're doing now. And we just have to let that $9 trillion roll off. We're going to have to let the inflation happen. We're going to have to bite the bullet. There's no way we can pay back all this debt. And we're going to have to keep rates. We're in a box, because if we raise rates to really kill inflation, the debt service on all these treasuries we've issued, $35 trillion and counting, is going to get crazy. If the listeners want a really interesting website, it's usdebtclock.org. Get on there. That's a fun but scary website. It has all the debt of all the states and all the countries in the world, and it's just clicking up higher. We've added $1 trillion in debt in about 4 months. It's pretty crazy. So we have to let this play out. We have to let inflation happen. We have to inflate our way out of all this debt, and we have to just ride out this wave. And it's not going to be booming prosperity, but I don't think it's going to be an economic collapse either. I think it's just going to be some more doldrums and kind of pain and suffering, especially for the average person. And the person that really is going to suffer is the one who's smart and saved up a bunch of money and had $400,000 or $500,000 saved up for their retirement. They're going to pay because they're going to lose a lot of that value because inflation just keeps ticking higher, despite what they say.
Talking with Craig Jacobson. He is an assistant professor of finance in the College of Undergraduate Studies in the School of Business and Leadership at Colorado Christian University. Now, with the Nikkei index, we saw it come up overnight about 10%. Is that a good indicator that this morning, when things open in the markets in about an hour, that we'll probably see a little rebound from what happened yesterday?
Yeah, we're looking like we're up 6 or 0.6, 0.7%, something like that. So I think that's good. That's a healthy sign. We're not having this late 20s, 1920s scenario where things just get worse and worse. But that's good to see buyers into the market and kind of take advantage of some of this sell-off. That means there's thought going on. There's people looking to take advantage of things. So that, again, tells me this correction we've had is a healthy one. And the Nikkei definitely needed to correct, too. So it was a huge tear. It finally got back above its 1980s level. It's kind of crazy. If you look at a long-term chart of the Nikkei, it actually took 40 years to get back to where it was in the 80s. It's pretty nuts. So we finally broke through that a couple months ago, and now we've just had a natural correction there too.
Craig Jacobson, assistant professor of finance, CCU, joining Jeff and Bill live. A minute ago, you talked about what we need to do in order to balance out the economy, the idea of letting inflation rise and things like that. Do you think that we have both the economic and, more importantly, the political appetite to let that happen? And the reason I ask is, does it matter who's sitting inside of the White House? As soon as that interest rate, as soon as the interest rate starts rising, as soon as inflation starts rising, as soon as, if inflation rises, you assume that unemployment also rises. As soon as those go, the other party is going to start screaming from whatever the tallest building or mountaintop they can find that the other party is tanking the American economy. Do you think we have both the economic and the political will for the prescription that you say we need?
No, we don't. I don't. I have an interesting background. I was born in 1970, and so I love when I was born because I was born with rotary dial phones and 3 channels on the TV, and you had to turn the clicker. We didn't even have a remote.
No, you were the remote. You were the remote.
Yeah.
Get up and change the channel. That was the remote. Yes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, which is west of Chicago, and it's a huge industrial center. one of the top 10 industrial centers in the country in the 50s. And we just got decimated in the 80s by what Volcker had to do. And I think Volcker still to this day is a hero. He was the president of the Fed back in the early 80s. And we had inflation running at 15, 17% a year. We had 30-year treasury rates at 17%. You could buy a treasury and own it for 30 years and make 17% a year just on the interest. It was crazy. And then the overnight rates got up to 15, 17%. So they had to go all out and just eviscerate inflation. And it cost us. We got up to 25% unemployment in Rockford. There's still empty hulks of factories in Rockford to this day. You could drive through the southwest part of town. And, Detroit, Gary, Indiana, all that kind of stuff. We all just got decimated by that. So in short, I don't think Trump or whoever else is in is going to have the will to do that yet. We might have to come to that someday, but I don't think it's today. I think we're going to have to, I think Trump's plan is to let inflation play out, keep rates low. I heard an interesting talk by J.D. Vance a while ago where he was talking about the strong dollar we've had forever, where the U.S. currency is very strong and other currencies are very weak because our rates are lower than ours. It's a subsidy. We're subsidizing overseas production so we can get cheaper stuff here. And we're hurting our own economy and our own manufacturing. So I think J.D. Vance and Trump are going to let the dollar decline, which means lower interest rates, which means higher inflation, but not runaway inflation yet. I think that pill is going to have to be swallowed in about 10 years or so, and it's going to be rough.
Yeah, sure. I think that's going to be the difficulty. Is I don't see from either political party an honest answer to the economic pain that the average voter has. Both are talking about the pain, but neither has a prescription. Neither one has said, hey, we're going to do this. And as you outlined, some of the plans that are there are actually going to make it more painful for the American consumer. So that's the weird part, is I think some of the voters are walking into this fall thinking that my chosen candidate is going to make it better for me, when I think in reality, both candidates are going to make it worse. I don't think there's either one of them has any idea how to make this better, and I don't think they can.
Yeah, I think you're right on there. I think you're exactly right.
Wow. Craig Jacobson, assistant professor of finance at Colorado Christian University. Guys, I'm not a finance guy, so I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, what a way to start my morning.
Yeah. And I love the fact that
it's going to get worse for like the next 10 years.
Yeah, it is. And I love the fact that Craig pointed out the overvaluation. He's right. NVIDIA is way overvalued. Tesla's been overvalued for years based on their deliverables. So yeah, that's been a problem, that there has been an artificial exuberance inside of the market. And we just expected it always goes up. It was just like, we felt a couple of years ago, mortgage rates were always going to be low, so we could always afford houses. Same thing. Doesn't happen that way.
I guess here the question I have is, and Craig, you go back to being born in the 70s. I was born in 81. And so my kind of experience is the economy continues to grow. It continues to get better. Technology develops, all this stuff. And then we run into these problems, right? So the bubble burst in the 90s, and then the housing burst in 2008. And then the kind of high inflation we're in now, in part due to the COVID response and all that stuff. So I've always kind of felt like it's, we deal with these problems, they last a few years, and then we get out of them and things tend to get better. I don't know if that's what I'm hearing you say, though, is how we're going to get out of the inflationary economic challenge that we're in now. Is this going to be different than my experience in 2008, and then the tech bubble burst that happened in the late 90s? Is this different than all that?
I think it'll be similar. It's just got to play out a little longer. We have to be patient. We can't fix this hole we got ourselves into. It was interesting when I was trading net securities back in the mid 90s, and even way back then, there'd be a problem with the S&Ls, or there'd be a bank issue with long-term capital management or something like that. A hedge fund blows up. They would lower rates and help people. They called it the Greenspan put. And that was great when we had 17% overnights. We could just keep lowering rates, but we got down to about 4% back in the day. And we're like, well, were we going to get to zero? And they kept doing it. You watch the long-term graph of the Fed funds rate, the overnight rate, it just kept going down and down and down because the government kept pumping money in the system to solve these problems. And that's not the answer to pump money in the system. My answer, my personal belief is in the markets, and you always let markets clear. Like if Denver, we have a dearth of Mexican restaurants and they're all pretty awesome. but we got, everybody builds Mexican restaurants everywhere around here, and some of them fail. And that's a good thing. We don't want hundreds of them. We want just a few good ones. And so that's what letting markets play out, letting this overvaluation play out, and letting markets clear, stop lowering rates, stop pumping money in the system. And I do believe there's an out here in that we can kind of let things play out a little bit, let the market collapse. I think we're going to be down 30, 40% over the next couple of years, probably, with a correction, just a natural correction in the overall market, especially the NASDAQ and crypto. But let this play out. Let people realize there's some risk here. And then things will come back, like you said. I think that was a great description. But it's not going to happen today. I think it's going to happen. We're going to have our crisis in about 4 or 5 years, I think.
Wow.
And, we'll get through it.
Craig Ferguson, or Craig Jacobson, providing some really great analysis, stuff I just have never engaged with before. And I really appreciate you taking time to walk us through this. I hope we can call on you for further analysis as we watch all this play out. But Craig Jacobson, assistant professor of finance at Colorado Christian University, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, this is a joy. It's great talking to you guys. I really appreciate you having me on. So anytime. Definitely.
Awesome, man. That was super insightful. Well, friends, I want to talk to you about Mountain High Appliance. They've cooked up some tasty deals for your kitchen. Now, for a limited time, receive up to a $3,000 rebate with the purchase of qualifying GE Cafe appliances. Enjoy the Mountain High Appliance price match guarantee and their special financing options. Visit one of their 4 locations for all the details and upgrade your kitchen with GE Cafe appliances in Denver at East 64th, Littleton, Louisville, and Glenwood Springs. Mountain High Appliance, experience the difference. Well, feel free to give us a call at 303-696-1971. What did you think of what Craig Jacobson said about the upcoming markets? I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about this because I really appreciate his kind of approach towards the free market, that we've got to let the market correct, and that all this government pumping of money into the system is kind of put us on a sugar high that just is not sustainable, and that we've got to kind of clear it out a little bit. I appreciate that at one hand, but then, man, maybe I've just been so used to the government stepping in to try to solve the market problems that I'm a little concerned that it might be painful if they don't. So text us on the 710KNUS app or give us a call, 303-696-1971. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Great conversation with Craig Jacobson. I think that's a great conversation. Billy and I are talking afterwards. I'm like, but wait, doesn't the government solve all of our problems? And I appreciate he's assistant professor of finance at Colorado Christian University who's like, look, you really want to deal with the mess we've got into?
Yeah.
And essentially, look, Billy, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is my read on it.
Yeah.
We're so used to the sugar high of the economy always getting better, getting better, right? It's always put your money in the stock market, stuff like that. And then the inflation has come up. Government debt has come up. That seemed to be a big concern of his. And he goes, look, we continue to have the government step in and pump this stuff up, especially when there's problems in our sector.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid, General Motors.
Yeah, exactly. Or airlines go under or something. Yes.
Right. And his Mexican restaurant analysis was spot on. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, you have Lomas, one of those Mexican restaurants. You got Los Dos. You got all of these Mexican restaurants open up multiple locations right next door to each other.
Yeah.
And he says when that happens, naturally, one of them is going to succeed and one's not. But when you have the government constantly stepping in all the time, you're just creating a problem worse and worse and worse. Now,
and
Billy,
part of it, though, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and this is where I do provide some fault to Donald Trump in the sense that he just added to the debt just as everybody else did. But, bro, the idea that Kamala Harris is somehow going to allow the right corrections to the market to take place, I may not think that Donald Trump's going to be able to solve this clearly, but Kamala Harris by no means is going to allow the market to correct itself.
Yeah, I don't think either one will. And it's because of what you talked about, the sugar high that we're addicted to. And it's like, I would like to say it's almost like a helicopter parent where nothing can go wrong for their child. And the government will step in when anything majorly goes wrong. They're not going to step in for anything going wrong for your life individually. But inside of a sector, they'll step in and they'll try to prevent it in whatever way, shape, or form. And the example being interest rates go up. That's going to lead in normal conditions to large-scale unemployment. And that large-scale unemployment, the government will expand benefits. The government will continue that sugar high. They're going to step in and make sure that we can still, have the unemployment benefits so that people don't lose houses, etc., which is normally what would happen.
Bill, when you got that COVID check, were you like, in my gut, I was like, this is going to cost me way more than what the stupid COVID check. It was like $800 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I had that feeling. I was like, this is a bad deal.
Well, the thing for me is that it's not necessarily sustainable. And I think there was a better way and a more targeted way to spend our money. But actually, I want to jump to the call real quickly. Jim calling us from Sterling here on Jeff and Bill show. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Doing good, man. You had a question. Gold, silver, economy?
Correct. Do you guys think it's a good idea to get into gold and silver right now with what's going on in our market and our society? I mean,
gold and silver are a strong play at this point. Again, do not listen to anything and do not make investments based on anything that I'm saying right now. But gold and silver are down a little bit right now in the past, number of 48 hours or so.
I do have some.
Yeah, but long term, it is going to be a stronger play because some of the volatility that our guest was talking about that he expects to see in the market, the gold and silver and platinum investments are a counteractive. So if the market is going to be,
what do you mean by that? Hang on a minute. What do you mean by that? It's never going to be worth nothing.
Yeah.
But so go ahead, reframe on that a little bit.
Because gold and silver holds for us intrinsic value. The idea that we've decided these metals are precious. That's how we define them. Over the long arc of history, the value of gold and silver is going to rise. If you're looking to make money on gold and silver in the next 12 months, that's questionable at times, depending on when you buy and sell, because it can go up and down. If you're looking at buying now and going to sell in 5 years, you're going to be safe. you're looking to buy now and be in and sell in 3 years, you're going to be doing just fine, especially if the market volatility that we expect to occur, that our friend Mr. Jacobson said is going to occur, actually does happen, because the investments in things like precious metals are a counteractive to the market. And what I mean is they are more solid and predictable. You don't have the daily fluctuations. No one's going to come out and say, whoa, gold missed their earnings target. They're down 17%. That's not going to happen. Gold's going to hold that value. So it's considered a more secure investment. However, while you can get a higher percentage return on market, if we can go and buy Tesla, and if Tesla's returning 17% and gold's increasing 6% year over year, the smarter gain for money would be the 70% gain in the investment in Tesla. So that's where gold ends up losing out. But it has to be on the continued cycle up. So that's why it's a preventative. If you're losing money in the market, go to gold and silver.
That's an interesting statement, the way you said that. Say that again.
Yeah.
So therefore...
Yeah, what you're doing is, if there's volatility inside the market, the gold and silver will protect you against that because it's much less volatile. It's more of a secure investment. You're not going to have the large gains that you could potentially have inside the market, but you also aren't going to have the large losses. Now, gold's never going to miss its earnings target. They're always going to nail it.
Jay, appreciate the call.
Thanks for the call.
Look, I want to talk to you about a really good investment, especially if you're hurt. Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Look, Dan's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But Dan, more than that, more than our values, he is a real winner when it comes to the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He is so trusted. He's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, but he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. You choose the news is next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, let's get to it. You choose the news.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really, really dumb stories about us humans. They're here in my hand, and I've given them even more ridiculous headlines. Why? Just because we want to play this fake radio news game show, because it's fun, it's silly, it's stupid, and nobody in charge has any idea we are doing something this ridiculous. So shh. Do not tell them. Jeff and I were on a big all-company phone call yesterday. They didn't know about it. That was good because the stuff that was discussed, yes, it could have gotten both of us, well, me mostly, in trouble. All righty, gentlemen, here we go. Here are your headlines for today. Headline number 1, tiny revenge. Headline number 2, category of beverage going very on brand. Headline number 3, part of the immigrant crime wave. And headline number 4, organic delivery service. Mr. Hunt,
start
your
with
choice.
that tiny revenge.
Yes, tiny revenge. This happened in Oskaloosa County, Florida. An Oskaloosa County woman was arrested earlier this week after she allegedly drowned her roommate's pet. Well, it was her roommate's pet jumping spider. They're like the size of a dime, but still. Dead
no,
yes.
Those are cute little spiders.
Yes, they're only cute because they're small. Imagine if it was the size of a cat. It would be scary.
I feel like everything's that way.
Yes, exactly. That'd be nightmare fuel. The pet jumping spider reportedly only cost $70. Owner could not find the spider in its enclosure. And during another argument, found out the 43-year-old admitted that, yes, I drowned your little itty-bitty spider. And I'm like, $70 for that? You can find them outside. And just really, I don't think you need to pay that much. I found a lot of spiders in our house cleaning this weekend. I'm not sure you have to go outside and get them. Okay, well, anyway. Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Category of beverage goes on brand, a part of the immigrant crime wave or organic delivery service.
Let's go with the immigrant.
Yeah, immigrant crime wave. This is part of the immigrant crime wave. Antonio El Diablo Reno, now 72, has been part of that immigrant crime wave. He crossed the border illegally and then became a policeman? Yes, actually. Decades ago, more than 20 years ago, he was wanted right here in the United States for a deadly shooting outside a bar in Ohio. He snuck across the border and has been living in Mexico for more than 20 years, where he just recently was arrested while he was serving as a police officer.
Nice.
Yes, he's been
best place to hide ever.
Exactly. El Diablo has been a police officer for more than 10 years down in Mexico. So again, I think it's weird.
Still fit?
Yeah, it said so, but yeah, I'm like, okay. So yeah, he'd been down there hiding out for 20 years and decided best way to do it, become an officer. I guess, hiding in plain sight. What are they going to do?
Exactly. That's what the Democrats do.
Exactly. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, final choice this morning, sir. Category of beverage going very on brand or organic delivery service?
Organic delivery service, please.
Yes, organic delivery service. Oh, Mother Nature is honing in on Uber Eats and FedEx and all sorts of things. Hurricane Debbie packed a powerful punch as it made landfall in Florida and brought along some wonderful treats like cocaine. Yes, more than $1 million of cocaine also made landfall courtesy of the hurricane. It's not the first time that drugs have been discovered during freak storms down in Florida. Debbie slammed into the state as a Category 1 hurricane and the best cocaine dealer ever because it's free. 25 packages of cocaine, 70 pounds each, onto a beach in the Florida Keys. So get there first and you get to start your own, your own home delivery service. But again, not the first time cocaine has been found near the shores of Florida. Recreational boaters found 65 pounds of cocaine floating in the ocean earlier this year. Last month, 25 kilograms of cocaine found about 100 feet off water off the coast of Key West. Back in May, a beachgoer found $1 million worth of cocaine washed up along the Florida Keys. I'm just saying, yeah, if you're out there and you're going to be going to that, they got that place where you go and you look for your diamonds and stuff. No. Much easier. Just go to Florida beaches and look for the piles of cocaine that evidently are just laying around everywhere. Yeah, I know.
That's wild.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's what that got me is not just it blew up the cocaine, but you're like, oh yeah, and it happened here. And these are years ago. This is like months ago this happened. I'm like,
seriously?
Hold on a second here. Yeah.
Now we know the real reason people are moving to Florida.
Exactly.
New opportunities.
Yep. That's it. Unfortunately, gentlemen, that is the end of You Choose the News. That's all the time we have for this silliness this morning. As always, Jeff, Blake, you are the winners, and I'm just a big giant loser. Back to you, Mr. Hunt.
Well, when we come back, the Zuckerbucks are back, and we're going to talk with the lead investigator on election integrity from the Federalist. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. It's a big one. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, August 6th. By the way, very happy birthday to my bride.
Oh, happy birthday.
It is her birthday today.
That is wonderful, Mrs.
That's
Jeff.
great.
That's fantastic. I love that. You have to Mrs. Jeff happy birthday.
I will. I
Yes.
will.
Oh, that's
Thank
great.
you, Billy. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm Jeff Hunt, co-host along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. And sometimes it's pretty crazy or scary, as we talked about in the 6 o'clock hour with Craig Jacobson about the markets. But it's going to be a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee brewing, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in just a second, election correspondent for the Federalist, Logan Washburn's going to join us on a article he wrote recently on how the Zuckerbucks are back. Here we go again. Zuckerbucks Group announces plans to dump more cash into election offices. We'll get the details from him. But first, the news from Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 67 and cloudy as we start the day, expecting a high of 94 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, remember when, for the most part in Colorado, we only had to worry about criminals who were citizens? Now they're from everywhere.
You know, these aren't jokes. These are thoughts. These are things that make you say.
Federal officials in El Paso have relinquished custody of an alleged Venezuelan gang member they say is linked to that violent June 24th jewelry store robbery in Denver. Homeland Security investigations in Las Cruces, New Mexico, turned over the suspect to Denver County Sheriff's Department last week for transfer to Colorado. There are reports around the country of criminals being let out of prison in their home countries and instructed to wreak havoc here in America, just in time for the election. Chaos. The commies love it. Remember the summer of love?
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Former President Trump coming to Colorado to Aspen for a fundraiser this weekend. Monday, he was hanging out with streamer Aiden Ross. This young guy is a huge deal to a lot of young people. The live streamer went live with 500,000 people watching. He gave Trump a Cybertruck with a wrap on it showing Trump with his fist in the air and the flag behind him after the assassination attempt, and a Rolex.
What time is it?
Hope you like watch.
Oh, that's a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
Should I open it?
You should open it and then show the camera.
That's a great watch, actually. Good company. They're good company.
You like Rolex?
They like Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Arnold Palmer and all the golf guys and all the other guys too. I do. This is beautiful. Wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they have nice packaging?
They do.
Like,
really, really nice.
Nice packaging. I love that. So he opens up the
that's
watch.
So nice. Oh, should I show that to the audience?
Yeah, they can see it.
That was at Mar-a-Lago. A great scene there with the young guy and Trump. Drive-by media promoting Kamala Harris, and who she will pick as vice president. The real story is the fact that she hasn't taken a live question in over a month by the press. It's been 15 days since Biden was forced out. Who needs a press conference from Harris when you have these?
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
Hundreds of questions about the assassination attempt, and now Real Clear Politics reporting that former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle wanted to destroy White House cocaine evidence. They say an agent was taken off the case after he wanted to follow a certain crime scene investigative protocol. Cheadle and Ron Rowe, who's now in Cheadle's position, you've seen and heard from him a few times in the past week and a half. They wanted to cover up evidence. The Secret Service Forensic Service Division and the Uniform Division stood firm and rejected the push to dispose of the evidence, according to 3 sources in the Secret Service community. Donald Trump Jr., a little confused that Kellyanne Conway wants to become or is going to become a lobbyist for Ukraine.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I guess you take the money and maybe that's DC or whatever happens over time. But I don't know how you can be part of a campaign and do that. I mean, clearly the problem is this, the rich guys in Ukraine, they want the war to continue because they're stealing the money that we're sending them. They're happy to send the guys dying on the battlegrounds as cannon fodder over there because they don't have any power on them. So they'll send that. So, if you're working for Ukraine, it's hard. Like, I can't imagine anyone there is actually working for peace. And Trump's the only guy that can actually get peace there. So, yeah, like I said, I like Kellyanne a lot. That one a little too swampy for my taste. And honestly, it's hard to believe.
U.S. women's soccer team takes on Germany in the semifinals in the Olympic Games today. It is 64 in Louisville, 65 in Littleton, 67 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Terrific Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture is increasing. Chances for showers and thunderstorms will be going up. Highs will be low to mid-90s today, afternoon and evening thunderstorms, mid to upper 60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Cooler, much cooler. Highs 70s with showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday and Friday. Weather is sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream annuities can provide. Guaranteed payments giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
It's like a zombie, Billy, that just won't go away. The Zuckerbucks. One of my favorite websites out there is the Federalist. Great commentary, great analysis, and original reporting. If you go to thefederalist.com, you can read their work there. Came across this article from Logan Washburn. Here we go again. Zuckerbucks Group announces plan to dump more cash into election offices. To provide us some analysis is the author himself. Logan, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me, and thank you for having me, Bill, as well.
All right, Logan, what are you finding out about these Zuckerbucks? We all remember them from 2020, or at least a lot of us do. Maybe give people a little refresher of what Zuckerberg did in 2020 and what he's trying to do again in 2024.
Yeah, so in 2020, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg funneled roughly $400 million to local election agencies through two groups, Center for Tech and Civic Life and the Center for Election Innovation and Research. Both of these groups kind of mask as being nonpartisan. They claim that they're just completely nonpartisan grant givers. And that election officials needed this during COVID. Well, what they ended up doing is funneling the money to mostly Democrat voting blocks, and so it ended up acting as a left-wing get-out-the-vote operation. Is your mic on? So that was what was really concerning after 2020. But what's happening now is we don't know who is behind these grants, but CTCL, one of the Zuckerbucks groups, is issuing another round of grants ahead of November. And this time it's targeting specifically rural and non-metro areas. So I think that considering what happened in 2020, this is something everyone should be keeping an eye on.
I mean, isn't the argument coming from them, and kind of my sense just reading your article in the Federalist, Logan Washburn, was that well, maybe they're just trying to help these local county clerks run their voting operations. They're going to give these grants based on the population size. Aren't they just trying to help, Logan?
That's what it would seem like. But what you have to do is consider who these groups are, because at face value, it doesn't necessarily seem bad to be giving funding to local election offices. They say that the officials need it. And, just the question of needing the funding aside, we've got to consider the fact that third-party groups, private parties, are able to fund public elections. And that kind of creates a conflict of interest because private parties have political motivations, and especially these ones. The Center for Tech and Civic Life, the one at issue here, we don't even know the amount of the total amount of money they're offering through these grants, but it's up to $100,000 for each jurisdiction. that was a side note. But what this group is basically an offshoot of an earlier group, the New Organizing Institute. That group was founded in the early 2000s and basically functioned as a digital organizing center for the Democratic Party. It became known as the Democratic Party's Hogwarts for digital wizardry, which I think is a really good a really good phrase there. So I like to drop it when I can because it's creative. But it really shows because 3 of the founding members of CTCL left the New Organizing Institute to found CTCL, and they focus on many of the same areas, such as get out the vote operations. And so that's one concerning thing. And then when we saw what happened in 2020 with increasing Democratic votes, that just raises a lot more concern.
No, what happened in 2020, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the Zuckerbucks and these organizations wanted to, in light of COVID, right, kind of under the auspice of COVID and the fact that people weren't going to vote regularly in the same way we had in the past, wanted to help turn out people and help get people engaged in the democratic process. But an analysis of where they put their money showed that they put most of them, not all of it, but a good portion of it into kind of turnout in more blue Democrat strongholds versus more rural, kind of red conservative districts. Is that the complaint of what Zuckerberg did with his money in 2020? And is there anything I'm missing there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's pretty much it. Yeah, they definitely gave it to conservative areas as well. But what they did is the grants lean much more heavily toward left-wing population centers. And so that's what's kind of interesting about this type of grant. It's specifically rural and non-metro areas. But another thing that's important to note about what they did in 2020 is that when they would give grants to these local jurisdictions, they ended up being able to have kind of a hand in the local elections process. They were able to kind of coach officials on how to approach certain things, how to process ballots. And so they're able to get kind of undue influence through this funding. And so it's not necessarily just funding them for the purposes of getting out a vote on one side or the other, but it's also for being able to have a hand in local election administration.
We're talking with Logan Washburn. Logan Washburn's an elections correspondent for the Federalist. So we have somebody in Colorado that is a Republican who sits on these Zuckerberg, kind of Zuckerbucks board. She ran for the job as Secretary of State, and she received some heat from these things. I think part of the challenge I have, Logan, with this is that these are nonprofit organizations, and by their nature, being nonprofit organizations, a lot of what they do is not public, right? They don't really have to disclose their donors, and anything that they may get pressed back on from the IRS with regards to political activities is going to take place 3, 4, 5 years from now. So well after the election takes place. Is that part of the problem, is that these things are structured to be nonpartisan, non-governmental entities, and as a result, there's some privacy around them, and that allows them to operate where we're not going to know what they're doing for years from now?
Absolutely. I think it fits in the whole structure of what these dark money groups do. It's basically, you can be a nonprofit so long as you're not political, and you're able to basically that way obscure your donors. And so that's a lot of the motivation for these groups. They likely have partisan motives, but they are able to claim nonpartisanship so they can obscure their donors. And that's what's really concerning, because powerful interests can be behind these groups. And especially if they have money, it's hard for the public to know what their true goals are. So that's definitely one thing to be keeping an eye on as well.
Logan, we're just getting this in. This is breaking news from CNN that Harris decides on Tim Walz as running mate. Tim is the governor of Minnesota, election correspondent for the Federalist. You want to give us any initial gut reactions that Tim Walz is going to be the VP pick for Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that what we should do is look at Walz's record in Minnesota to see what kind of VP he would be. The VP does a lot of roles that are kind of diplomatic, but it still gives a lot of weight to the direction of the presidency. And so we should see what happened in Minnesota. And specifically, a lot of these far left policies that have been passed recently. We should see how he's been involved there. But in terms of Walz being picked over someone else like Shapiro from Pennsylvania, I think that they must have found something during the vetting process that would have changed their minds, because it seemed for a while like they were heavily weighting their efforts toward Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And Shapiro was the top pick for a while, it seemed, but clearly that's no longer the case.
Billy, you got any thoughts on this? Tim Walz coming in, or some questions for Logan here?
I want to go back with Logan and talk a little bit about, with CTCL, you're talking about Zuckerbucks. What's the amount of money that Zuckerberg and his organization are donating to CTCL in this election cycle?
Yeah, that's a great point and an important distinction. I don't think that it's public. They're not giving any money to CTCL that we know of so far. And so in terms of this being another Zuckerbucks operation, it's only that insofar as it's the same group that shuttled the money before. And so Zuckerberg isn't necessarily tied to it this time around.
Yeah, I'm worried about that as far as that labeling. I think it's kind of a misnomer. But you were talking about the idea during the last election cycle that a lot of the money went into Democrat areas. Now, part of that is because of population centers, and population centers normally break to be blue, where rural and outside suburbs normally break red. Inside of the announcement from CTCL, they're looking for rural and non-metro jurisdictions. Isn't this a self-correction for the complaints everybody had post-2020?
Well, I think that's definitely a fair point to make. But I would also say that they're not always very transparent about this. I don't think that they would admit that it was a mistake in 2020. And I also think that we just have to remember that it goes beyond a get out the vote operation to actually getting a hand in the local election administration processes. Because if you give a grant, you're able to provide trainings and resources. And so you're able to direct them, the local election officials, to pass certain policies. CTCL in the past has offered trainings that encourage local election administrators to push for vote by mail policies and things like that on the state level, all in the name of just better election administration. But it almost goes to the level of pushing the bureaucracy beyond its bounds.
Okay, but then where's the nefarious action that says they're Democrat operatives? Because this is all I've heard since tail end of 2020's election. CTCL is a Democrat operative organization funded by billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, and it's out there to steal the elections. In the outline you've given us this morning, there's nothing in there functionally for CTCL to steal the elections.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction as well. So I appreciate your perspective here. At the Federalist, what we like to say is that it's not so much stealing the election as it is kind of a rigging, because what the deal is, so I'm going to go a few years back here. The New Organizing Institute that I mentioned earlier, they gave inspiration to Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Weiss, who basically took inspiration from this group to craft a memo about reshaping the U.S. electorate to benefit Democrats and progressives back in 2014 or 2015. And since then, the New Organizing Institute has become defunct, and 3 former staffers have gone from that to CTCL, which just so happens to share the same goals of get out the vote operations, vote by mail, things like that, and supposedly just helping election administrators. But the fact that it came from a group that was explicitly a Democratic digital organizing group, and the fact that it gave direction to efforts to completely reshape the electorate, I think that's kind of concerning. And these groups are working with other left-wing dark money groups like the Center for Secure and Modern Elections. So we have to take all of this into account. And it's definitely good to be critical of this because I know how the media cycle works. You don't want to immediately jump to any conclusions.
Now, Logan Washburn, elections correspondent with the Federalist. Help me understand how we get from the turn out the vote, the mail-in ballots, to the nefarious practices. Because so far, what I seem to be hearing with CTCL is more people voting good. And somehow we've come to that conclusion I'm hearing from you, more people voting bad. I'm having a problem seeing where the nefarious nature inside of CTCL is.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing. When you frame it as a get out the vote operation, I mean, if you see the partisan nature, you could see it as being problematic. But overall, it's like, who's going to object to having more voters? In reality, though, I think it does come down to the fact that they're able to offer these resources and trainings to local election offices to kind of steer policies in the various states and jurisdictions. They have, I'll tell you, just online, they have tons of public seminars that they offer to election administrators on things like mis and disinformation. And that gets really problematic because any kind of partisan motive, any kind of bias really plays into the process there when you're determining what speech to accept and what not to accept. And they're giving this to local election administrators, and in a lot of cases, working with them one-on-one to coach them through the whole process. So it's really a question of whether these third parties with potentially partisan ties should have that role in the election process.
Well, I think if they have public seminars and such, we should be able to then see the nefarious actions where they're saying only count the Democrat votes or only do this. And again, that's where I have this cognitive dissonance. I understand the concern, but so far, nobody has proven that concern to be reliable, valid, or provable. I mean, I understand, but we would look sideways at Democrats if they said, well, 3 of these people in this organization came from a Republican think tank that did X, Y, and Z, and because of that, they're obviously in the tank. We'd look at Democrats and go, stop it. And that's kind of where I'm sitting on this one, too. I understand the concern. I just don't see the danger that's been proven.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and you can have your own perspective on that as well. But I think that we should be keeping an eye on all of the connections these groups have. And I will even say that the other Zuckerbucks group, the Center for Election Innovation and Research, is headed by David Becker, who was described as the acting attorney, or described as the acting director of the Civil Rights Division, as a hardcore leftist who couldn't stand conservatives. And so a lot of these people that are working together on these efforts, they do have very clear partisan paths. And so we should be considering whether they're being honest when they say they're nonpartisan, or if they're kind of speaking in code around these things. And I think that they are, I think that that's kind of the case because they have certain motives and certain outcomes in the past that just don't seem to make sense unless they do have those partisan motives.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks for the point. That's good.
Yeah, Logan Washburn, I agree with your analysis there, and I'm grateful you guys at the Federalist are keeping eyes on this. Again, his article in the Federalist, here we go again. Zuckerbucks Group announces plan to dump more cash into election offices, and thanks for clarifying that, it's not necessarily the Zuckerberg money coming in right now, but it's these organizations that were previously affiliated, and they're gearing up again to engage in this election. And they tend to be staffed by very partisan people. And so we need to be honest and open and transparent with these organizations and keep a good eye on them. Logan Washburn, how can people follow you on X?
Thank you. You can follow me on X at Logan Washburn 76. And the Federalist also has a lot of good content coming out, so I'd encourage them to keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah,
TheFederalist.com, great website. Logan,
Wonderful
thanks so much
website.
for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thanks, Logan.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate talking to both of you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
We'll continue to track
cool.
all this breaking news as well. Tim Walz, I've never even heard of this guy.
For me, this is the dark horse pick. I didn't think this is the one. This is a weird one strategically. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised on this one because I don't think it shores up a weakness that Kamala has in the way. But okay,
Midwestern Democrat. Maybe that's the angle here. But
and he's super popular,
Logan's
though.
point, they
Yeah.
must have found something on Shapiro.
I'm curious, what it was, because I thought Shapiro plays defense for Kamala in certain areas. Walz, however, is a very, very accomplished politician as far as ability. He knows what he's doing, and he will present well on the stump. He knows, how to do the speeches, and
12 years in Congress.
Yep. And what I'm curious about is, and this is the thing is, I'm wondering how much Israel, the conflict with Hamas, and the conflagration that may start even larger with Iran if they do follow through on the attack we think is coming sometime in the next week or so. I'm wondering if this is more of a play for the Muslim voters in Minnesota than Jewish voters in Pennsylvania. And I'm wondering if that's it, because, and I'm wondering, again, I can be completely and totally wrong, and that couldn't be what they were talking about, but this is not the guy I thought she was going to pick. No.
And we as a country may want to reevaluate our immigration policies if we're now having to play towards the anti-Jewish Muslim vote in Minnesota. My goodness. Seriously? That's just kind of crazy that it's that big of a voting block that you're like, all right, we're willing to dump the Jews.
I'm not sure it is. And that's why it's an interesting play for me. I'm not sure it's a large enough voting block to really worry about. So that's why I can't figure out what does he shore up? Were they worried about losing Minnesota? Were they? I don't understand. I don't know.
He spent 12 years in Congress representing a conservative-leaning rural district, and now he's a two-term Minnesota governor. I think they're trying to moderate out Kamala Harris. So give us a call. What do you think of this strategy? 303-696-1971 or the conversation with Logan Washburn and the Zuckerbucks. My sense is the Democrats are up to it again. And they may claim to be fair, nonpartisan. We're just going to get more people voting. I think it's a scheme. I think that they want to win elections. That's my gut.
Though. There are no Zuckerbucks. Now I thought that was interesting that Logan pointed out. There is no money coming from Zuckerberg, so they can't be Zuckerbucks anymore. We can't sit there and say
Zuckerbucks
we can't sit there and say Zucker. No, they existed before Zuckerberg. The fact that he donates once is silly. Again, it's great branding, works well, but it's a misnomer. It's an absolute misnomer because
I don't know. I'm
CTCL
guessing it's still there somewhere.
CTCL existed before the donation in the last election cycle and will exist after. So that was a one-time donation. But it's a neat name to call something because it colors the conversation. Yeah, I understand why it's used.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710KNUS app. Look, with all the work I've had done with my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. That matters. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The procedure involves making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303 303-233-1335. That's 303-233-1335, or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. All right, we'll continue with your calls and texts. And the breaking news that Kamala Harris has chosen Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as her vice presidential pick. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
The breaking news coming from CNN. Harris decides on Tim Walz as running mate. He's the governor of Minnesota, served 12 years in Congress representing a conservative-leaning rural district. Interesting. Is this a good pick? Why not Shapiro out of Pennsylvania? Are the Democrats abandoning the Jews at this point? My goodness, let's go to the phone lines. Joan Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
What do you think of this pick?
I am not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. When I heard earlier this morning that it was down to Shapiro and Walz, I said to my friends, it's Walz. I texted it out, and they were all like, you're crazy. Why would it be Walz? And I'm like, because Shapiro would show up Harris's lack of brain material.
How so? Because he's smarter?
Yep, he is a very smart man. And he also has a much higher popularity rating than she has. And on top of that, I honestly thinking you're going to think this is really rude, but two young people would have a problem attracting some of the older people. And I think she did an old white man pick so that she could get some of the seniors.
Yeah, it's comfortable. I can see that. I can see that as far as the visual of we tend to like old white people to vote for them, old white men especially. And
well, you did call that, Billy. You said it was going to be
first day.
Old white dude. Now, Josh Shapiro's not that young, but he's also not that old. Look, I'll be honest. I'm looking. My first gut reaction on this is like I feel like they picked Tim Kaine all over again. That was who Hillary Clinton picked. And he just kind of has disappeared from the scene. Is this kind of a throwaway pick, Billy? Or do you think that this was a really smart strategic pick?
I don't know about a smart strategic pick, but I understand some of the strategy inside of it. I'm not sure I agree with it. If I'm on the team, I'm not sure this is the strategy I take. But he does have things like he's an educator. He is Army Reserve, I believe, or National Guard. I think he's Army National Guard. So he gives a little bit of the veteran credibility to the ticket, which shores up against the J.D. Vance, the idea of the veteran there. The other thing is that Walz is very much on the pro-choice, pro-union side, really strong in that one. And especially with the pro-life issue, if we're looking at pro-life, abortion, pro-choice, he is a very strong player and will set up her bona fides for protecting access to abortion if that is going to be the Democrat play. If they think that's the issue they can motivate people on, then this is a very smart choice. If not, I got some other questions. But if they think this is the thing to lead with, because he just signed an abortion access bill, I think this term. I don't know if it was this year or last, but in his current term, he signed a bill that is fairly open, not as open as ours, but it is quite open. And if that's the play, okay, then I can see the strategy. Outside of that, I'm not sure I see it.
Well, I know that she couldn't pick Kelly because every time anybody looks at him, all they see is the border. And the border is such a problem.
Well, Joan, Joan, hang on a second. I got to ask you there. Wouldn't he have said wouldn't the messaging from the Democrats have been, look, we're taking the border seriously because I have a senator who is directly impacted on it, and he knows the on the ground what really is happening, and oh my gosh, he's going to be an expert. Couldn't they go with that messaging? I mean, whether or not you agree with it, but couldn't they go with that messaging from Mark Kelly by picking him as Veep?
No.
Why not?
They can't message the border at all. The message of the border belongs to Trump. There is no way they can make the border look like it's anything, especially with them putting out numbers of terrorists that have crossed. That's just insane.
Well, Joan, I appreciate the call. I want to get to Tony and Littleton here in just a second, because Tony called in originally and was pushing for the Castillo brothers. No, that's not it.
No,
is that it? Juan
Oh, I don't
What is their
remember.
last
Yeah,
name?
but it's
I'm forgetting
Texas
their
kids,
last
yeah.
name.
Yeah, the Texas brothers.
The Texas brothers that served in Obama's administration. We're going to get to Tony in just a second. I want to get his response as a Democrat. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that's not only going to give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble has proven to give you more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. You can sit down and actually see their list of over 14,700 ready to go, ready to spend buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you're going to put into your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Let's go to Tony Littleton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Tony, glad you called in. What do you think of this pick?
I think it reveals everything about her strategy and what they've locked in on. First of all, we probably all know that no VP has delivered their state since 1960, when LBJ delivered Texas to Kennedy.
I didn't know that.
All the other victories were already going to win the state. So a state that went a way that it shouldn't go was LBJ delivering Texas to Kennedy. So I think that right away she's in a place that I don't need to appoint somebody to win a given state. So you've got people like Whitmer, you've got Shapiro in Pennsylvania. These people are going to work hard as hell on their state no matter what. They didn't have to be on the ticket to work their state really hard. Now Walz, Minnesota's not at risk. I mean, they're going to win Minnesota anyways. Democrats are going to win Minnesota anyways. So I think why they picked him is basically that's saying this strategy is blue wall, blue wall, blue wall, and they want him supplementing the efforts of all those governors in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and that's where he's going to spend all his time, meeting with every possible group he possibly can, and because they're going after those three. I think you probably know she doesn't have to win Nevada, Arizona, or Georgia to win 270. She just needs the three blue wall.
Those big
Trump,
Midwestern
on the other hand,
states there. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Trump, on the
Or
other
Tom.
hand, he needs to win all three of those. He needs to win Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, plus one of the three. And so what the strategy is basically get the three. That's all you'll focus on. Get the three, and you've won. And if they do pick up Georgia, if they do pick up Arizona, if they do pick up Nevada, that's just icing on the cake. And I think it's really
Tony, I
revealing
appreciate
what her
the
thinking
call.
is.
That's
thanks,
really
guys.
good strategy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. We're just out of time. Look, I want to talk to you about my friends over at QC Kinetics. Pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do, but there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. Listen, there are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And the place to go, QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is using cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. We have a guy here in the office, Joel, works in our sales department. He was telling me he's been visiting QC Kinetics, went hiking with his wife up in Vail the other day. 5 miles and his back didn't hurt. It was the first time in years that's happened. Look, if you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know that steroids, surgery, and pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. This is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, with locations in Aurora, Superior, and Colorado Springs, as well as Highlands Ranch, QCkinetics.com. We'll continue with this breaking news coming through. Kamala Harris picks Tim Walz as her vice presidential pick. What do you think? Give us a call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Five, four, three.
Check. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The big news coming out, Tim Walz is the VP pick for Kamala Harris. So what do you think of this? If you're probably like me, you're like, who? What? What is this guy all about? We'll have to get into that. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Everyone always asks, what makes advanced hair restoration different? Allow me to share about their once-a-year summer savings event. First off, Advanced Hair stands by their results, and their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. Advanced Hair Summer Savings Event is here, and it's the best savings of the year. Call 720-459-HAIR or visit advancedhair.com. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Well, good morning. Yeah, a little bit of Beastie Boys there. Yeah. Got to fight for your right to party. Bill Thorpe sitting in alone. Jeff had something to do. You and I haven't had a chance to talk. We haven't had this kind of discussion. So it's just going to be for the next 2 hours, you and me. We're going to talk about Vice President, now presidential nominee, Kamala Harris's pick of Tim Walz. Who the hell is this guy? Is this a smart pick? Is it not? We'll get to Francis here in just a minute or two. But first, we've got to check in with everything going on in the news. My favorite newsman and the person that easily should be winning an Edward R. Murrow, if not monthly, at least weekly, because of the stuff he puts up with here on the show. Blake Olson, how are you doing? Time for the Blake Olson news.
Don't hold your breath on that one. Hey, before you go now,
yes, my friend.
I know you want to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, I do.
No, I know you never,
I'm doing the potty dance.
I'm
doing the potty dance.
very nice. There it is.
Yeah.
I love it. I know that. Dan.
Yes, exactly.
I do that well.
Yep.
I think there's something going on here in Minnesota.
Yeah, what do you think?
Just a guess. I started thinking about this. So, the Somali community up there, generally, yeah, definitely. And generally, we think of them as Democrats. But I believe there are a lot of Somali natives who are now Americans in Minnesota who are making that transition to Republican. And the last time they were, Trump was in Minneapolis, you see a lot of Somalis in the crowd. And here is one of them right here. I found this guy just about 5 minutes ago. This feeling of I don't.
That's interesting.
They are not happy with what happened to their neighborhoods in 2020. Right?
That's much like the sentiment that I'm hearing from a lot of the Hispanic community.
Yes,
and even illegal immigrants saying that, yes, even if I'm here illegally, I'm not happy with how this is going. You're like,
no question. Hey,
yeah,
they want to be safe.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't want to live in crime-ridden cities. I think that has a lot to do with it. But generally conservative, on the dating far right, when you talk about whether religion in their families and that type of thing. So that could be what's happening here. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to watch because evidently I watched Alpha News Minnesota, who did a great job on a documentary with January 6th. And the summer and Minneapolis that happened in 2020.
Yeah, it was a mess.
And it was a mess. And so I think that could be a factor just Jeff. We'll speak, Billy, but good to talk to you. And
good to talk to you, my friend.
We'll talk to Jeff tomorrow. But,
yes, we will.
We continue. 70 and partly cloudy as we start today. Expecting a high of 94 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Vice President Kamala Harris has picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. 60-year-old Democrat served in the House for 12 years until he was elected governor in Minnesota in 2018. Re-elected. And this is crazy all about the top. Logan Washburn, elected correspondent in the Federalist, on with the last
doing another round of grants ahead of November. And this time it's targeting specifically rural and non-metro areas. I think that considering what happened in 2020, this is something everyone should be keeping an eye on.
Okay, I got it mixed up. Washburn was discussing the Zuckerbucks, Mark Zuckerberg dumping cash or grants disguised as nonpartisan that will probably benefit the left again. Now, here is Washburn on the VP pick.
In terms of Walz being picked over someone else like Shapiro from Pennsylvania, I think that they must have found something during the vetting process that would have changed their minds, because it seemed for a while like they were heavily weighting their efforts toward Pennsylvania. Shapiro was the top pick for a while, it seemed.
So VP Harris hasn't answered questions in over a month, and the Biden coup occurred 15 days ago. How about today? Will she answer questions? Walz and Harris slated to appear together later this evening in Philadelphia. Former President Trump coming to Colorado to Aspen this weekend for a fundraiser. Monday, he hung out with streamer Aiden Ross, the young live streamer who's really a big deal with a lot of young people. 500,000 people watched his live stream. He gave Trump a Cybertruck. I think those are $100,000 with a wrap on it showing Trump with his fist in the air and the flag behind him after the assassination attempt. He also gave him a Rolex, and Trump liked the sound system in the new truck.
Now this is cool.
That's very good.
I've never even seen you in a car before.
Not too many. that's look at the playlist, huh?
This is your playlist.
It's a good, yeah.
Your team picked out.
Yeah.
Like
you want
kid
to
in
pick
the
a song?
candy
Let's test out
store.
this,
Okay, so let's try it. And you know, some of the artists I like better than others, but I like the other song better. So it's always tough.
Who's like your top 3 artists?
Well, we love Frank Sinatra, right?
Of course.
And you know, there's a couple that I really like, but I don't like the people, so I don't want to really mention their name. But look at this list as an example. So it's such a great list. Aren't the Beatles always good?
Come on, they're the best.
Rolling Stones are always good.
That was a big moment on Monday for Trump. The tent is getting bigger, you would hope, for conservatives. Federal officials in El Paso have relinquished custody of an alleged Venezuelan gang member they say is linked to that violent June 24th jewelry store robbery in Denver. It was horrible. Homeland Security investigations in Las Cruces, New Mexico, turned over the suspect to Denver County Sheriff's Department last week for transfer to Colorado. Open southern border, creating more crime in Denver and in Colorado. Real Clear Politics reporting that former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle wanted to destroy the White House cocaine evidence. They say an agent was taken off the case after after they wanted to follow a certain crime scene investigative protocol. Cheadle and Ron Rowe, who's now in Cheadle's position, you've seen and heard from him a few times in the past week or so. They wanted to cover up the evidence. The Secret Service Forensic Service Division and the Uniform Division stood firm and rejected the push to dispose of the evidence, according to 3 sources in the Secret Service community. U.S. women's soccer team takes on Germany in the semifinals in the Olympic Games today. 67 in Arvada, 68 in Greenwood Village, and 70 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture is increasing. Chances for showers and thunderstorms will be going up. Highs will be low to mid-90s today, afternoon and evening thunderstorms, mid to upper 60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Cooler, much cooler. Highs 70s with showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday and Friday. Weather is sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream annuities can provide. Guaranteed payments giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Love me some Metallica. This is a great way to kick off the 8 o'clock hour Jeff and Bill show. Jeff had some other things to do today. It is Mrs. Jeff's birthday. And when it is Mrs. Jeff's birthday, you do very special things because she's a fantastic woman and Jeff is such a family man. He has some things that he's going to be doing with the family today, so he ducked out a little bit early. So it is only you and I. We do not get this opportunity, well, ever, because they don't let me in the studio alone. They know there's a rule. So there's some people in charge that had to sign off on some things and some other assurances I had to give in order for them to allow me the controls this morning. And a big shout out to Adam, who's helping me out doing both video and behind the scenes production. So yes, we all are wearing a lot of different hats today, but Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, wearing a brand new hat. He is now the vice presidential nominee for the Democrat Party. That's Kamala Harris's choice. Surprised me. Smart choice? What problem is Tim Walz solving for the Harris campaign? Why make this pick versus someone like Mark Kelly or Shapiro? For me, those are the ones that stood out. Mark Kelly because VP Spaceman, that's just cool. That and also Arizona because of you wanted to shore up and if you want to pull those electoral college votes away from Trump. Trump needs those. Same thing in Pennsylvania. I think Shapiro would deliver Pennsylvania, despite what Tony's saying about a VP almost never delivering their state. Okay, that is a fair point. The other part, though, is I thought that Shapiro would shore up Harris's Jewishness, I guess. That's not a good way to put it. But the idea that maybe he is a preventative measure against the attack that the Democrats are becoming more anti-Semitic. But does someone like a Tim Walz, where you have him in Minnesota that does have a large growing Muslim population, does this play the other way? Does this show that maybe what the Republicans have been saying about the Democrats abandoning some Jewish voters, is that true? Is this going to prove the narrative the Republicans have been selling about Kamala and the Democrats? Give me a ring, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. We are going to talk to Francis. Good morning, Francis. Thank you so much for giving me a call this morning. Appreciate you playing along. What do you think about Tim Walz being the VP nominee?
Hey, Bill. Hey, well, as soon as I heard it, I was kind of like you. Who is this guy? I don't have any idea who this person is. And I have a couple of friends that live up that direction. One is a moderate liberal, like a more classic liberal, very abortion rights oriented. The other one is a moderate conservative, non-MAGA conservative, fiscal conservative. And they both basically, well, one of them has met this guy a couple times, the conservative, and said that he's a very good guy, really good guy, very personable. She thinks that he's a little bit too much of a spendthrift. But of course, the other friend of mine retorted that every year they apparently run a surplus on the budget. And so, little things like this back and forth. Apparently, neither of them blames him or gives him any, responsibility for any of the Floyd riots. And there was apparently some embezzlement issue that took place with the Department of Education up there. Somebody embezzled funds for feeding children. And so he apparently kind of passed the buck, or said the buck does not stop here when that came up. So that lack of accountability with that, at least that's how I'm hearing it. That's
interesting.
I think, who was it? Paul, who called a little earlier, or the Democrat friend who's a decent fellow and seems to have his head screwed on. He isn't hanging from the rafters.
Yeah.
I liked his idea on this. I think he's right. I think they're looking at just the math on different states, and they realize that they don't necessarily have to leap for the possibility of getting electoral votes out of states that may be a little tricky to mine, and instead are just shoring up blue states, because they view it that this is more of an uphill battle for Trump on those states. And so rather than scramble over the states that are kind of up in the air, just shore up what you got, and you should be able to get to the number.
Now that's interesting. Now we had a conversation about how Trump needs Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and the Harris campaign would like it, but it's not necessarily needed. Let's talk about Georgia for a second. Trump over the weekend goes to Georgia and insults their very, very popular governor, Kemp, and his wife. From where you sit, how do you think that plays in Georgia? Again, neither one of us Georgia voters, so we don't live there, but how do you think that plays there?
I read that over the weekend. I was kind of shocked, to be honest, because it's stupid. It's so stupid. He does the dumbest things and steps on his own, you know what, all the time. Of course it plays horribly. This governor is very popular, and just because he's not quite the he doesn't pass the purity test, I guess, for some people. Trump then throws red meat at the MAGA crowd, who's all going to vote for him anyway. By throwing darts at this guy who's a very popular governor who's a Republican. That's insanely stupid. That's just so dumb. If he loses the election again, it's once again just look in the mirror. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why. Does it make any sense at all? Right now, both of these candidates should be running to the middle, not trying to, run further to the fringes. And that's kind of what I think Kamala's pick is. I mean, I think it sounds like he's a relatively nondescript guy who is fairly fiscally conservative, who people like. He's apparently a very personable guy. And actually, both these people had met him before, and they both like him a lot. So I don't, it sounds like kind of a centrist pick. I don't think it's there to alienate people one way or the other. I think Shapiro would have been a logical pick to shore up that population or that demographic, but is it also too dangerous? So you're cutting people off on the other end? I don't know.
Now here's a really weird one, and I'm not sure this is right or not, but I just was reading that Walz is 60. He's like 12 months older than Kamala. Hang on a sec. Dude looks like he's 15 years older than she is. And so I'm wondering if some of it is the perception of, we had heard this before, running two young people, the perception of Shapiro being so young and the perception of Walz, even though he's within 12 months of Kamala's age, he will appear to be much older. Is this the idea that maybe is there part of this in appearance that we're just more comfortable voting for the old white guy?
Oh, there's definitely part of that. You know what I think Kamala's age secret is that she just never has worried or thought about things very much to grow old, because she's just that shallow. I think that's the problem with her. The best way to not grow old is just not have to worry about anything, and you're fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hey, Kamala, thanks so much for the call, man. I hope you have a great day, and thanks for listening. I really appreciate it, man. Take care. Don't know how to kill that. No, they're good. Is he going? No, I don't. There it is. Okay, good. I'm learning how to work the buttons on this side of the room. I can punch the buttons in the other one, where Adam's helping me out and sitting over here. But they let me sit in the big boy chair today. Yes, I did have to sign several things. There was a notary present on things that I would not do here. So normally we don't get this opportunity. Bill Thorpe sitting in Jeff and Bill's show. Jeff had to go do something. It is Mrs. Jeff's birthday today. Happy birthday. But when your wife wants to do something special on her birthday, the only answer you give is yes. So we are happy that Jeff and the entire Hunt clan are doing something super cool today. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but he had to dip out a little bit early. So come on, hang out with me. When's the last time you and I got a chance to talk one-on-one? Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Joe from Arvada. Joe, do we do this now or later? Tell you what, Joe, I want to give us some space here, man. I'm going to step aside early. We don't normally do this. I'm going to take a moment here, and I'm going to talk to you about balanced wealth space, because Joe can maybe kick my butt here in a second, and I might have to go visit my friends at Balanced Wealth Space to help me feel better after I get my butt whooping. See, Balanced Wealth Space is an amazing medical facility. They work with integrated medicine. They're making a difference in my life that is simply unbelievable. I have done a lot of really stupid things through playing soccer and just a lot of dumb choices. More stitches than I can count. I've got back surgery. I've got shoulder surgery. I have broken so many bones, and I have torn meniscus in a knee, stretched ligaments. I'm a mess. I'm an absolute mess, but Balanced Wealth Space is putting me back together. Here's the deal. Balanced Wealth Space can do everything under one roof. We're talking about chiropractors, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and some alternative methods that are right on the cutting edge. The things they've been able to do for me in my back. I used to get up and I was aching, move around. There were certain ways I couldn't even bend, and if I sat in one position for too long, I felt like you had to just pry me out of that chair. Now I feel 10, 15 years younger. I don't have the constant aches and the pains. I bent yesterday and my brain went, wait, don't do that. But I could. That's the change that I've experienced with Balanced Wellspace. Check them out, balancedwellspace.com. What they'll do is they'll perform an entire custom evaluation of your pain. They want to hear what hurts. Why does it hurt? And then they do some tests. It includes the x-rays and all the other stuff. They take a couple of days and they put together a custom-built treatment plan that is just for you, dealing exactly with the things that are preventing you from living your life. If you're having a problem with the stairs, like my friend Karen, she's having awful neuropathy over at Balanced Wellspace, and she was even going backwards down her stairs because she was afraid of what was going to happen when she falls. Now she's getting up and down the stairs, no problems at all. They've done amazing things with their neuropathy, and I want them to do the same thing for you. Balanced Wellspace, check them out, balancedwellspace.com. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the entire team. Here's the other cool part. It's one appointment. After the show today, I'm headed over there. I am going to end up doing a short physical rehabilitation workout. They're going to do some traction. We're going to do a thing called Synexus, where they do an electrical shock therapy that is opening up the nerve pathways in muscle tissue in my lower back, giving me more movement, pain-free. It's allowing the muscles to move the way they should rather than tightening and trying to protect the two discs or two vertebrae in my back that are starting to fuse. The other thing they're doing is wave therapy on my shoulder and destroying all of the scar tissue that's getting in the way. That's part of the reason I was having so much deep pain, so many problems moving my shoulder, why I couldn't reach my arm above my head. It's because of what was going on. They're taking care of all of it. And the best part, it's one appointment. One appointment. I'm going to be done within an hour today, and everything's going to be taken care of. I want you to check them out as well. They're in Lowry, brand new offices right across the street from Hangar 2. If you can find the Officers Club, you can find Balanced Wellspace. Oh, almost forgot about this. Sleep. I got to tell you the difference in my sleep. I used to toss and turn all night because things hurt. My back was sitting wrong, so I'd wake up and I'd have back pain. Roll over on my bum shoulder, I'd wake up about an hour and a half later, bum shoulder pain. I turned the other direction, now my knee's hurting. The entirety of my sleep overnight was interrupted constantly because I'm tossing and turning based on the pain. Now, this past weekend, I went 10 hours. 10 hours. No pain. That's stupid. It's like me when I was 12. It's ridiculous. That's the kind of things that Dr. Julie and the team can do. Check them out, Balanced Wellspace, balancedwellspace.com, balancedwellspace.com, balancedwellspace.com. I want them to do for you what they're doing for me. We'll be back right after this. Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Joe from Arvada is up next. What is the problem that Walz is solving for Kamala Harris? 710 KNUS. 710 KNUS. Jeff and Bill. Bill Thorpe flying solo. Jeff had to take care of some stuff this morning. Has Kamala Harris found magic with Tim Walz? Now, forecast for today, it's going to be hot, real hot, like 95 degrees. Scattered storms around the metro area. Hopefully this afternoon you are lucky enough to get a little rain on you. We're dropping down to 90 by tomorrow. Scattered storms again tomorrow. And then we've got storms likely the rest of the week, running all the way through Monday. And we're going to experience a temperature dip. So 95 today, we should be down to 75 by Friday. Losing 5 degrees tomorrow, 10 more degrees on Thursday, down to 75 by Friday. And then we go the other way by Monday. It's going to be back up to 90. But again, hopefully you get rained on. And overnight lows right around in the low 60s, high 50s kind of a thing. So hope that keeps you cool during the evening. We've been keeping our fan on overnight, like all night, because it's hot. And I don't like this that much. Speaking of sweating, I've got Joe from Arvada. Been sweating this call the entire break, my friend. Joe, good morning. Thank you so much for giving us a call. What problem does Tim Walz solve for Kamala Harris?
Well, good morning, Billy. This is a complex answer. But here, let me just start by saying that Kamala gave a hat tip to her strategy, and she came out and thanked the people of Venezuela for their free and fair election of Maduro.
Interesting.
He's basically saying that, they voted for Maduro, so that's what they're going to get. In other words, if the communists in Venezuela are good for them, the communists here in the United States are good for us.
Given that celebration we saw here in Denver, I can see where you're going.
Well, the other thing that did is that kind of hat that steel is back on. If you don't think so, take a look at the Gateway pundits.
Yeah, Joe, Gateway pundits.
My mom, I have a family emergency.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, tell you what, Joe, if you get a chance, man, call back. I'll let you back in. Okay, man, not a problem. Have a good. Take care, Mom. Okay, Joe's got to take care, Mom. That's interesting. The idea that he's going back into the steel. Maybe he's got something there about Kamala tipping her hand with congratulating Venezuela on the election. I'm a little more skeptical there, but I'm curious. In fact, what's up, Frank? What's what Frank is doing? Frank, Denver, Jeff and Bill, show 710 KNUS. Thanks for the call. What's on your mind about Tim Walz, Kamala Harris? Why do you pick him?
I think Kamala is a good name by one other radio guy is Dome. Took a tip from Sarah Palin. And Sarah Palin was critiqued by one of the Saturday Night Live people who was quoted as saying, "Thinking causes wrinkle." And I don't think Kamala wants wrinkle. So I don't know. Might be the interesting contrast between the younger minority candidate and the old white guy, controversial like they had before. Who knows? But anyway, my comment was that the Democrats have totally changed the way the typical presidency has been done. From George Washington on, it's usually a strong person, strong man, strong candidate with consultants. And now the Democrats have done it more by committee. I mean, who do you think has been running this whole thing for the last 3 years? I feel like it's a committee of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and a few other Democrat strong people with a spokesperson as a president. And I think that will continue with Kamala because I just don't think she has the experience or the depth to do that. My concern is our position on the world stage when you're dealing with other strong men like Putin and Xi, and how we are represented by our strong person in world eyes and vision and consciousness amongst those people, because we're facing tough times in the next few years, and it could be an emergency, a big emergency at any time. So I don't know. I like it the more traditional way. I mean, all the other issues can be talked about, and the committee of the presidency, the delegate these things to be handled. But I still like the strong man. I feel actually more secure with that.
Now that's interesting, Frank. Let's explore that for a second. Tell me why you have a perception of Donald Trump being a stronger leader than someone like Kamala Harris, who's a former DA and AG prosecutor? Why would Donald Trump be the person you see as the stronger person in the office and the stronger negotiator? Help me understand that.
I just think you look at his history and the way, not only exemplified by what happened to him right after he got shot, but he came back with a fist up. I think when he gets his ire up or bows his neck, he presents a super strong front. And then with all our other strength of our military and our wealth, we still present, America does, a formidable person or entity to be dealt with. Not only that, but the strength of the American economy when it's unleashed, the power that it generates, and the charity to the world. But these are all good and positive things that America puts out in many spheres to the world.
Yeah. Now, Frank, it's interesting you brought in the idea of the economy because the U.S. has one of the strongest economies on the planet.
Be strong.
Yeah. So does that then play against Trump and for Harris? That if we're talking about a strong leader in a strong country, and again, if you talk about the people behind a potential President Harris, there would still be our same military, same generals, same enlisted. So I'm not certain that, that if we change Harris for Trump, that the fundamentals of everything behind them change. It could just be the presentation of who's in charge. And I'm unconvinced that Donald Trump presents as a strong leader internationally because of some of the things he said. Is he erratic and unpredictable? Yes. Could that be a defensive mechanism? Yes. But the idea that he's a strong strategist, I just don't see.
I don't know what we're going to be doing for energy in 50 years, but for right now it's petroleum. And I will give kudos to the last few years that Democrats have allowed increase in petroleum reserves and production. But I think nothing like with their green corollary that they have to kiss up to what it would be if Trump allowed much more opening of that. And I think so energy and the power that's derived from energy and the economic security that derives from energy to the populace smooths over a lot of things. And I think he would be better at that than having to contend with the green people, which that's the other thing that the left is so played to, the different factors that they have had to pick up to get the voting numbers to put them in office.
Yeah, let me stop you there. Just I like what you're saying on this one. Here's the thing, and I want to get your feelings on this. And again, you want to give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, 710 KNUS. Bill Thorpe flying solo. Jeff had to go do something with the family, so let him do that. Life is more important than what's behind this microphone. Just got to remind everybody of that. Give me a call. Let's talk about what's going on with Walz, what's going on with Harris. Now, Frank, what I want to talk about is I think you've identified green energy as a problem for Democrats. And I want to get your reaction to this. I believe that Democrats have mislabeled. I think that they are approaching green energy incorrectly. I think the sell for green energy is it's the U.S.'s ability to give the finger to OPEC. If we can produce, again, and we never are going to get away from petroleum, nor should we. It is a wonderful product. It's so universal, and we will actually need it to generate the power for all the electrical stuff so that we're going to have EVs, and et cetera. What do you think about the idea of pushing green energy in America just so we aren't beholden to OPEC price manipulation in oil, and instead we get to play in that market more above board? What do you think about that?
I have no problem whatsoever with green energy. I actually love green energy, but I think the thing is the timing and the fact that it was forced down our throats by the Democrats is you must go to all electric vehicles by such and such time frame. The hybrids were already an efficient way, especially depending on the distance that someone is going to travel. The little Honda Prius with a combo electric versus and gasoline allows you much more freedom and safety for the long haul if something happens to the electrical system. So the hybrid technology already is there. And all these other things can be done. Solar in certain areas is certainly great. But I think we should be also trying to develop more American solar, American chips, all these other things. We need to get our country working again and kind of trying to rebound from the pandemic that unfortunately, I'm afraid, was released on us by a certain entity. And we're recovering from that. And our only source of recovery doesn't need to be just government dollars. It needs to be a rebound of the economy that is based on soundness. We have to protect ourselves. All these other arguments that Trump makes are sound, but they're made out to be hysterical or crazy, or what's the new word? Weird.
Yeah,
that,
weird. Nicely
that
done.
they want to unload on people, and they're not allowing people to think for themselves. They're pushing an agenda for them to think.
And I think you're exactly right, Frank, and I really appreciate the conversation. I think you're 110% right, especially when you were talking about the government mandate for EVs. I think that is an excellent example because hybrids, given what our economy is right now, are far more efficient and are a much better choice for many families because of the limited charge nature of EVs and lack of charging stations. Hybrids, if I was, and they'll never allow me inside the White House, and they probably shouldn't, but if I was in the advisory position, I would be leaning towards the hybrids. I think that is a better way for us to go economically right now. But yes, we do need to transition into green energy. And as Frank said, I'm not against green energy. I like green energy. But for me, it's the idea of us being able to give the finger to OPEC. Do you agree? 303-696-1971. And what is the problem that Tim Walz solves for Kamala Harris? He's been picked as her VP this morning. He is the governor of Minnesota, former senator, former teacher, is a military veteran, National Guard. I'll add that because my friend George Brockler. Yeah, but so we talk about enlisted versus the Guard. They always poke fun. So I never made that choice, and always respect and honor the people that do. It's something that I couldn't do in my own life for a variety of reasons, mostly because I have a problem with authority, and it probably would not have gone over very well. But give me a call. Tell me what problem Tim Walz is solving for President Kamala Harris, and is he actually a weakness? Does this end up being a wrong choice? And I want to find out why. We're going to talk to Marty, Jim, and everybody else on the phones here in a second. 303-696-1971. You're listening to 710 KNUS. Jeff and Bill, me flying solo. We don't get to do this lots. We'll talk in a sec. We'll be right back. Hey, here's a band that got destroyed by the grunge era. They were huge, right up until Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, and Nirvana showed up. Then they just disappeared. Yeah, they were actually referenced in a Saturday Night Live Weekend Update joke. And then they disappeared. Yeah, better than Ezra. All right, is this a good choice for Kamala Harris? Tim Walz is now the VP nominee for the Democrats. What problem does Tim Walz solve? 95 degrees today. You're going to have scattered storms in and around the metro area this afternoon. Hopefully it does cool you off and rain on you. 90 degrees tomorrow, and we're dipping down to 75 by Friday, but back up to 90 degrees on Monday. This is 710 KNUS. Bill Thorpe here alone. They don't normally let this happen, but Mrs. Jeff's birthday is today, so he's off doing family things because family and life is always more important than anything that's going behind this microphone. Always. That's kind of the rule in this business. It's the only way you can stay sane. So Jeff's doing some fun stuff with the family. So that means you and I are talking together. This almost never happens. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, just like Marty did. Marty, Denver. Hey, thanks for calling Jeff and Bill. What's on your mind today about the Veep pick?
Hey, you Bill. Okay, great stuff. Real quick, though, the way you shove it to OPEC, the way you give it to OPEC is beating them at their own game like the United States can. We have a greater capacity. We could be the number one exporter if we chose that route, but we chose climate change and all that. So FYI.
Why would we do that, though? Wait, let's stop there. Marty, just for a second. It's an interesting point. Yes, we could produce, but why would we? What would be the motivation to produce more oil and get into a production race with them rather than be able to produce just enough oil that we need and then play in the market at our leisure?
Well, great. Okay, great counter. Number one, if you go back to Donald Trump era, which was pro-oil, we had gasoline down. We had oil trading between like $35 and $50 a barrel because we had increased capacity to set the tone for OPEC is really the way I would say.
Okay, let me stop you there, Marty. Let me stop you there based on the price of the price of a barrel of oil. How does that impact the Colorado oil and gas industry when oil is that low? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing in the
no, it isn't. No, no, it's not. Well, it's bad. It's an easy answer, Marty. That is a bad thing. When oil is trading at $35 a barrel, it is a bad thing for Colorado oil and gas. It becomes too expensive to get out of the ground. So I understand where we're going with that. But if we want gas prices, oil prices that low, you are going to harm the American oil and gas industry, not improve it.
I'm describing taking the massive resources that we currently deploy all into green energy. And we say, fellows, we've got this mineral that everybody in the world has to have. We got more of it, more technology, and that you begin to build the confidence and the efficiencies around that. But
fair point. Yeah, let's set that aside. Yeah, let's go to Walz and VP Harris. Yeah,
excellent.
Because you're not going to do this for half an hour, man. Yeah, keep going.
You're right. You're on it. Exactly. And I think it's both fair. It's really the conversations that should be had. But if you look at this VP pick, when I look at like the most extreme states in the union, Billy, I think of Colorado, California, Oregon, Washington State, New York, and of course, Minnesota. And so when you measure those extreme natures and how they police their citizens and then how they treat their pro-choice stance, abortions in the delivery room, that kind of mode, when I look at what it would take to govern a state like that, the requirements of that, you know exactly where a Kamala administration would go. He brings great relief. If you want to be mad about our pro-choice stance where we have no limits on that, get mad at this guy, not on the Queen Kamala. So I think it defers a lot of that pressure, but make no mistake, she is not going to move to the center. With that pick, you don't move to the center to get independents, to get those on the fence. With a VP pick like that, Billy, you can't do it because that goes to one place. That's George Floyd Mecca. That's depolicing and increasing abortions like to a T. They're doing it like perfectly there, and they're overrun by immigrants. I mean, holy cow, that's an extreme pick.
I'm not sure I would say, Marty, and thanks for the call, that they're overrun by immigrants, but it is a large immigrant population. But I think you're right that this isn't a tack to the center. I think you're absolutely right on that one. Thanks for the call. Very intelligent, man. I always appreciate when you call us. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill Thorpe flying solo. We are going to get to both Christian and Jim and your call after this. 710 KNUS. Yes. Things here at 710 KNUS are completely upside down. They left me alone in the studio. Alone. Me. I know. There should be people in charge, but evidently, well, I did have to sign some paperwork and things yesterday. Hey, it's Bill Thorpe. Jeff and Bill show. Jeff Hunt is not with us right now because it is Mrs. Jeff's birthday. And when it is Mrs. Jeff's birthday, you do special things for Mrs. Jeff. You do that for all of your spouses, whoever it is. It's one of those things that Jeff and I have talked about, that life can't get in the way of this microphone. You can't let this business get in charge. And it's difficult to do at times because of how and why we work. And so, but today he needed some time. He's going to do some great stuff with the family. So you and I, yes, just you and I, get to spend some time together. This never happens. I had to sign paperwork with the notary in order to make this happen. So again, let's take advantage of this. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. We're going to talk to Jim. We're going to talk to Christian here in just a second. I want to know what problem Tim Walz solves for Kamala Harris. Why is he the pick? Normally the Veep shores up a weakness for the main candidate. We saw with Trump, J.D. Vance, Midwest. J.D. Vance, younger, veteran, hillbilly elegy. Well, there are some holes there that he fills for Donald Trump. What holes does Tim Walz fill for Kamala Harris? 303-696-1971. But before that, we've got to get to the absolute hands down best newscast anywhere in Denver on morning radio. It's time for the Blake Olson News. Good morning, sir.
Home Alone. Billy's in the studio
I
by
know
himself.
It is.
Was this Home Alone 5?
Yes. Home Alone 5. When Macaulay Culkin's old enough to be behind the radio station mic. Yes. Yes. And you don't think that I haven't set up traps over here in front of the door when they come in here and try to drag me away from this microphone alone? Absolutely. Yeah. And I've got a spider sitting right over here too that I'm going to throw at somebody just in case.
I just hope Mark Anderson doesn't walk in there with you.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
Break loose. 75 and sunny, expecting a high of 95 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Tim Walz has turned this state into a sanctuary state for violent, illegal felons. He's given driver's license to illegal aliens. He's given college tuition to illegal aliens.
Vice President Kamala Harris has picked Kamala has picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. The 60-year-old Democrat served in the House for 12 years before he was elected governor in Minnesota in 2018 and reelected in 2022. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas.
Kamala Harris's choice of Tim Walz reinforces what we already knew, that she's a dangerous San Francisco liberal. Just consider, during the BLM riots in 2020, Tim Walz allowed rioters and arsonists and looters to rampage through Minneapolis.
Nancy Pelosi.
He has her confidence, obviously. That was the decision that the president, not our presidential nominee, soon to be president of the United States, has made. I respect the decision.
Yeah. Minneapolis citizen Salman Fikwi is one of many native Somalians who live in the Twin Cities and have made the switch and are going to vote for former President Trump, previously being Democrats. I don't know if this has anything to do with the selection of Walz, but a lot of people sick and tired of high crime, the chaos that occurred in 2020, and many going to hell under the leadership of guys like Walz.
This feelings of the feeling of people switching from Democratic Party to a Republican Party resonates with a lot of people, a lot of Somali voters. And some of them, of course, were kind of a little bit unhappy about it. But the overwhelming majority of the Somali community were very happy about it and reacted really positively towards it.
Interesting. Harris hasn't answered questions in over a month, and the Biden coup occurred 15 days ago. How about today? Will she answer questions? Walz and Harris are slated to appear together later this evening in Philadelphia. Biden is still the president, by the way, officially. And back to Pelosi, she was all over the place on many subjects, and including Biden on CNN on Monday.
Whether it's, well, it's the first bill. the first bill that protect our assault, our bill,
COVID.
Shots in the arm, money in the pockets, children in school, people at work, the infrastructure bill, building in a way that is respectful of communities, chips and science.
Have you spoken to President Biden since he
No.
dropped out?
No, I have not.
Do you hope to?
Yes, I hope to.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Is everything okay with your relationship?
You'd have to ask him, but I hope
Okay.
so. But he knows. Look, I have loved Joe Biden, respected him for over 40 years. I was party chair in California, then I became member of Congress, and then one thing, other housewife, House member, House Speaker, working with him all along. I think he has made one of the biggest contributions to our country in the shortest period of time.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Oh, he's made accomplishments. All right. That border is wide open. All right. Former President Trump coming to Colorado to Aspen for a fundraiser this weekend. The Alexander Mountain Fire is now at 74% containment, and the Quarry Fire is at 45%. More rain would be a blessing. Real Clear Politics are reporting that former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle wanted to destroy the White House cocaine evidence. She should have been fired after the assassination attempt. Valerie Allman from Longmont, Silver Creek High School, won her second straight gold medal in the discus. Congratulations to her. What an accomplishment. U.S. women's soccer team takes on Germany in the semifinals in the Olympic Games today. 74 in Parker, 73 in Westminster, 75 in Denver. Bill is home alone. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture is increasing. Chances for showers and thunderstorms will be going up. Highs will be low to mid-90s today, afternoon and evening thunderstorms, mid to upper 60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Cooler, much cooler. Highs 70s with showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday and Friday. Weather is sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream annuities can provide. Guaranteed payments giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, good morning, Jeff and Bill show. This is Bill Thorpe flying solo. Yes, it's like Home Alone. Somehow all of the responsible adults have left me alone in the studio. Yeah, I am as curious about this as you are. I've got Adam behind the glass over there helping me out. He's pulling double duty, and he's doing the video for you as well as running the board, and he's the guy you talk to when you call. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. I could not do this without Adam Walker. I really do appreciate him stepping up and helping out. Otherwise, this would have been an absolute nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, yes, they left me alone, and now Tim Walz is the vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris. Let's talk about the weather before we get into the topic. Today, highs of 95. Overnight lows right around 63. Tomorrow, 90. It's going to be dropping about 5 to 10 degrees every day through Friday. We're going to have a high of 75 by Friday, and then through the weekend, we're climbing back up to 90 by Monday. The only respite you have are storms are forecast for every afternoon this week. Hopefully, it's going to cool you off by getting a little bit of rain. We got a little bit of rain near the Thorpe household yesterday, and it was so needed because, it was so sweaty yesterday afternoon. Hope you were staying cool. Appreciate everybody playing along on the text messages. You can download the app and then text us that way here at the show, or just give me a call, 303-696-1971. I have one line open right now, and on the text message, texter says Tim Walz is solving less for Kamala than creating more problems. Is it looking at the past issues and what Walz has done, what went on with BLM riots, what went on with criminals and violent criminals being let out of jail there, looking at the flag in Minnesota, and just looking at the overall climate? Is Walz more of a problem for Harris rather than solving something? I'm curious to see what Jim says. Jim called us 303-696-1971. Jim from Denver, thanks for the phone call, man. What's on your mind? What do you want to say?
Hey, good morning. With the vice presidential pick, I think it was probably between Shapiro for the Pennsylvania situation and Walz. Kelly, I don't think was realistically in the running anyway. But, we haven't talked about Jews this much in 100 years. So to have a black president and a Jewish vice president, to me, I don't think the nation, I don't think the nation's ready for that.
Really?
You remember what happened when we had that Catholic president in the 60s?
Yep, I remember.
That was just a Catholic, right? But now the Jewish situation. So there are a lot of
what about
things
Lieberman
that
though?
the Jewish.
Lieberman would have been the first Jewish vice presidential nominee, and he's a number of years ago. Again, didn't
he lost.
win. Yeah, he lost. And again, Al Gore. But that's interesting that you talk about it. Do you think, Jim, that the Democrat Party is, I hesitate to say anti-Semitic, but do you think they're pulling away from that solid Jewish Democrat voter base? Do you think that they are trying to become too inclusive? What do you think, man?
I don't. I just think the Jewish folks, they used to be number 2 on the pecking order of who we're supposed to hate in the Midwest when we grow up there. I think they've fallen to number 3 or number 4, but overall their position is still much the same. We Christians blame them for a few things.
That's true.
And I just don't think that we're quite ready for it. I think that's too much change for America. And the Democrat Party, I don't think they're interested in exciting the electorate on the opposing party.
Oh, that's interesting.
The way Donald Trump, he doesn't care. He's going to excite everybody to vote, and now they got abortion. So I think if you make sure you stay away from the Jewish despising people in the Midwest. There's a lot of German people in my Midwestern area where I grew up. There's a lot of anger and hate because there just is. And they don't like the mixing of people. The problem is they've infiltrated or they've brought in illegal labor to do all the farm and the slaughterhouse jobs. And so long as it keeps somebody else's prices down, it has an effect and they overlook it. But, once one of those brown people rapes a white jogger jogging down the road, then it stirs it up for about 15 minutes. But then we just start overlooking it again because all we're really interested in is money and that stock market and oil prices. And the oil price conversation you had this morning is it's funny to me because if anybody out there thinks that the Republican Party wants lower oil prices, as in the Republican executives, the leadership wants lower oil prices, all they have to do is go look at the current FTC investigation that is going on with collusion. And these people that head oil companies and buy politicians, the last thing they want is lower profits. They want higher profits. And the way in which to do that, even Donald knows that. Donald said, hey, I'd take $1 billion from you guys if you have it, and I'll make your life greater, in the next 4 years. What did Donald do for the big oil majors? Well, the oil majors were under threat, just like OPEC was, from the frackers, the small frackers.
Yeah, and they changed it that way.
They wanted to put them out of business. So what did Donald do? Well, Donald did away with Iranian oil from the world's markets and Venezuelan oil from the world's markets. And then it sustained the big oil majors because they were in risk.
Yeah, they were. Now, Jim, one of the things you're talking about, Jim, and I appreciate the phone call. One of the things that's interesting there is where Russian oil then plays in that economically and internationally, because if you want to, again, constrict the supply, you would really try to clamp down more on the Russian oil, and they're playing outside of the embargoes as well that should be in place based on what's going on in Ukraine. But we've got other people that are taking the oil from them, and that would be another one to play with. And I can see where it's going, and I think that Jim does have a good point that this idea about lowering oil prices and lowering gas prices is more of lip service than it is something that either political party really wants to do because of the money we make with oil and gas. When Marty had called earlier, he talked about dropping oil prices down to $30 a barrel. That would devastate the Colorado oil and gas industry. That would be scary. We would see so many jobs picking up and leaving our state, and that would be a negative consequence. So I think Jim makes a very good point. Are we really ready for lower oil prices? I'm not certain. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. Does Tim Walz solve a problem for Kamala Harris, or does he create more problems? Just like a texter said. Texter said, listen, this is Minnesota. This is a more liberal state. This is the state where BLM went nuts, where they signed a more open abortion law, where they have all of these weird Muslim immigrants that we're not always so comfortable with. And where are a lot of the protests happening, and where does that community come from that is so against the conflict between Israel and Hamas? Some of that spills out of Minnesota. We saw a lot of pushback out of Minnesota against Joe Biden on his path when he's going after Israel. They thought he should have been much, much harder and pulling support from Israel. Is that what Kamala is doing? I'm curious to see what Christian thinks. Christian's called us from Fort Collins. Christian, thanks for calling 710 KNUS, Jeff and Bill Show. What do you think about this pick of Tim Walz and Kamala Harris?
Well, off the bat, the last caller seemed awfully anti-Semitic. I grew up in Ohio. I was Catholic, went to Catholic schools, and I've been to synagogue a couple times, and there was no sentiment of negativity towards the Jewish community. So
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I haven't experienced that either in family and friends that I have in the Midwest, but I wanted to respect his experience because it was personal. And so because that's what he experienced, I'm like, okay, I can't invalidate that one way or the other. And it was interesting on this perspective. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, everybody's entitled to their perspective. What we need to recognize, though, is that we're up against a juggernaut of the media, the left, that are pushing socialism and even communism. And if we don't realize that we need to all join together to fight against the juggernaut of the media that is berating everybody with falsehoods, we're going to lose. And that's the reality. And earlier you had talked about, well, I guess let's address your question about Walz. So I don't have too much knowledge about Walz, but it is kind of shocking that Kamala would pick somebody that's just as radical, that aligns with AOC and that group.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that too. He seems more liberal
shocking
than what I
that she
expect.
picked somebody so far left that's right in line with her. So I am shocked by that pick.
Now, Christian,
But,
let's explore this just for a sec. When he was talking about, both of us here shared the thought that this is a fairly liberal pick. Now, you've listened to the show a little bit. You know that I like to ask difficult questions. Jeff Hunt, who's had to go do some stuff with the family today, has this idea that during the Obama run, the fact that Obama was legitimately the most liberal person in Congress when he was running didn't matter at all. So I'm curious about your ideas on, does it matter? I'm of two minds. Do you think that the larger electorate is going to be concerned at all about either Kamala or Walz being far left when they didn't care about Obama? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think you need to look at the bigger picture.
Cool.
I think the electorate has waken up a lot. When Obama was voted in, he ran on hope and change with no actual policy of what he was hoping to change. And people voted for him because they're like, hope and change. Yeah, sounds good. And a black president, that'd be nice. But then the reality is policies is all social agenda, leftist policy. I think a lot of the black community has woken up to identity politics, and we're not talking 50%, but I think there's a large awakening there that they are being played by the left.
Really? Do you think so?
They're waking up to. I think so. I think that it's very possible that we could get 20% of the black vote in this election.
Wow, 20. Okay, Oh, man. Okay, we got to talk about that for a sec, because I think 20% is a fantasy. I think that you might top out at 15 if many things go. And I think that Trump's performance against in front of the National Association of Black Journalists tanked that possibility. I think that Trump is going to be looking at 6, 7, 8% maximum. What are you seeing that makes you say, what makes you say, I'm just curious, what are you seeing that you feel it's going to be a much larger representation? What am I missing?
Well, again, we have a messaging problem. So the messaging problem after he went to that Black journalist meeting, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I know where. Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
in Chicago, after he went to that, they took the messaging and they ran with it, and they got to dictate what actually happened there. Well, what they said happened isn't really what happened. You know, they started it late and then they ended it, but they tried to claim that Trump didn't give them their proper amount of time, and then this whole thing about black jobs.
I think Trump ended it, though, but yeah. But go ahead.
The U.S. Department of Statistics has tracked black jobs for decades. It's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, here's the thing is, and I agree with you, and I agree with you, Christian, and I think this is a messaging problem, and there are times in which the words that Trump chooses are inaccurate or incorrect, and I think when he talks about the idea of black jobs, the impression is here are things that black people should do, and instead he should be talking about black employment. That's the right word, and I think that would, and that's where it falls apart.
I completely disagree with what you just said.
Yeah,
I
so
completely disagree.
Oh, good. Oh, I like that, man. So tell me why? Yeah, what did I get wrong? Tell me.
Because he prior to the black journalist meeting, he had said numerous times that illegals are disproportionately taking black and Hispanic jobs. That's not racist. He's talking about who is losing jobs to illegal immigrants. And it's not racist to say that, because that's the legitimate statistical truth.
Well, the only thing that's difficult in that conversation, Christian, is that both Hispanic and black employment is higher under Biden than it was under Trump. In fact, it's got historical highs under Biden. And again, I'm not saying, hey, Biden got all these people jobs. I'm just saying
I don't know why you do this. You keep pushing the Democrat narrative. That's not true. During 2019, Trump had the lowest black unemployment in the history of the statistics.
But that's no longer true anymore. Biden has it lower. And
the reason I'm doing Biden started claiming he had the record when it wasn't true.
But it is true now. Statistically, it is true now. Black employment is higher now. Black unemployment is lower than it ever has been in our history at this point. When we were talking on Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, that is truth. And that's difficult when Donald Trump then comes out and makes the statement about his employment levels. And again, I'm not sitting here saying Joe Biden did this. I'm just saying that's where the number is right now. And I appreciate when you talk about the fact that you're talking about me coming in and bringing in all these Democrat talking points. For me, what I'm trying to do is bring in reality. And too often with both Democrats and Republicans, I hear them talking past each other because people don't want to agree on reality. And the reality is that it was incredibly low under Trump and was a historical low at that time. But the reality today is the employment for blacks is higher under Biden and the unemployment is lower.
Well, all I can do is take your word for that. I have not looked back into it recently, but I know that when Biden first went out there and started tooting his horn, saying that he had the lowest black unemployment rate in the history of the statistic, it was a lie, because Trump actually had 0.2% lower in 2019 and the beginning of 2020 prior to the pandemic under him.
Yeah, again, I'll go back and look at
I don't know about this moment in time.
Ago. Yeah, stats I saw a month ago. The trend was his was going down the other direction. And I appreciate that. Thanks for the call, Christian. That was a really good conversation. I haven't heard your voice before, man. I hope you give us a call again, all the way from Fort Collins. I really appreciate you spending time here at 710 KNUS on the Jeff and Bill Show. Yeah, no Jeff. Just Bill Thorpe. Unfortunately, today, we apologize deeply to each and every one of you. Jeff has some stuff to do with Mrs. Jeff and the family today. It is her birthday, so of course, we are going to let him go spend time with the family because life is always going to be more important than anything going on here behind the microphone. That's one of the rules if you want to stay sane in this business. So I've got Adam Walker behind the glass helping me out doing yeoman's work. He's doing 2 jobs right now. Yes. Is he getting paid more? No. That's how we roll. Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Joe from Arvada is back. We're going to get to him after this break. I hope his mom's doing okay. I know there was a little bit of a family emergency. We'll check in with him. Hope everything's doing okay. And then we'll pick up the conversation we had earlier. I want to know from you, what problem does Tim Walz solve for Kamala Harris? Is this a strong pick? Does this continue what we see as momentum behind the Harris campaign, or has she made her first misstep? What do you see? 303-696-1971. Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Ugh, Lincoln Park. Man. Chester Bennington. Mike Shinoda. Ugh. What a good band. What a difficult time that Chester left us way, way, way too early. Linkin Park's talking about getting back together, maybe bringing a female singer into the mix. But I'm not going to go too far down to that line. Good morning, Jeff and Bill show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Yeah, I'm flying solo. I have no idea why they have allowed me to take control of it. I mean, it's in the big boy chair in the other room. It's really weird. Yeah, I had to sign some paperwork. There was a notary involved, the stuff that I can't do in order to make sure this happens. But so far, the people in charge haven't come in and yanked me out of here. Adam Walker sitting on the other side of the glass, helping me out, doing both the video and also the radio side of things. That is not an easy job. He is working his rear end off, and I sure appreciate all the hard stuff that he's doing. And we're going to go back to the phones here in a second and talk to Joe from Arvada. He had to drop off earlier, and I said if he had got a chance, absolutely, I would let him come back and complete his thought in the conversation because I enjoy talking to Joe. And we're talking about Kamala Harris. Tim Walz is the vice presidential nominee for the Democrats. That's a shock to me. It's a surprise. I would not have guessed Walz would have been the nominee. If I'm in Vegas yesterday, Walz is probably the last of the group that I place a bet on. I would go Shapiro first, then Kelly, then Walz. Heck, I'd put Gretchen Whitmer above Walz. I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm just saying that's how I was looking at it. I'm not certain what problem Tim Walz solves for Kamala Harris. In fact, as one of the texters pointed out, Walz might create more problems because of the appearance of being so liberal. Minnesota is solid blue. Tony from Littleton earlier called in, reminded us that no VP pick has delivered their state for decades for the presidential ticket. But do you need to have someone that can play in those pools? And is that what Tim Walz does? Tim Walz is the Midwestern guy that can wander around Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and connect with those voters in a way that maybe a Mark Kelly couldn't. Shapiro probably could because he's from Pennsylvania. The other thing is, could this be purely an image thing? Tim Walz is 60. Kamala Harris, 59. Tim looks like he's 20 years older. Is this the reassuring old white guy that was needed on the ticket so we're not scared about Kamala? I'm going to go back to the phones right now. Joe from Arvada. Joe, really, really happy that you had time to call back in. Is everything okay with the family? That's more important than anything else. Everybody's good?
Absolutely, Billy.
Fantastic,
my mom
man.
is okay.
Good.
She's diabetic. She was just on a low.
Oh,
And she had some juice. We're making her breakfast right now, and she's feeling a little better.
Well, tell Mama Joe hi. Say hi. Say we're
Mom, they say hi to you
Yes.
on the radio.
Yeah, everybody here says hello, and we hope she's doing great.
She says thank you. She's
fantastic.
feeling a little better.
Good.
She'll be better when she has some decent food.
Oh, absolutely,
So-
man. So yeah, what's on your mind? Talk to me. We're talking Kamala, Tim Walz.
This pick. Now you got to understand something. I was making a long point, but I'll try to jump to the chase. It's Barack Obama is making these decisions. See, they already have Pennsylvania under wraps, and Josh Shapiro had baggage. Everybody knows that the Democrat Party is now leaning against the Israelites. Come on, let's face it.
Yeah, I'm
you
curious
can
about
say
that.
whatever you want, but the truth is that they are pro-Hamas and they're in a war. And you watch, there could be a war before the election against
Now,
Lebanon.
Joe, I want to interrupt you right there. That I think, I may not agree with you that the Democrats are necessarily quite to the level anti-Semitic or, against a Jewish population as you feel. However, what I want to put on the table is, does Tim Walz, given the refugee and Muslim population of Minnesota, reinforce that conclusion? Does this pick of Tim Walz reinforce exactly what you just said about Kamala and the Democrats? What do you think?
Of course, what they're doing is they're setting up the paradigm that this is the sanctuary country.
Yeah.
This is where you go to get free meals, a free ride. You leave your country and you come here. Only if you're, I'm sorry, an Islamist. You have to be an Islamist. And if you are, then you get to come and get a free ride. If not, no. sorry, anybody who lives here, it's not America first, it's America last. We've seen it already. Everybody knows that the Bidens and the Kamalas and the Obamas of the world put America last.
Now, Joe,
here's the
no, go ahead. No, please go ahead. Keep going.
Well, here's why there's more than one reason why they didn't pick Shapiro. They already have the big machine set up in Pennsylvania for the steal. If you don't think so, there are counties in Pennsylvania that had more votes than voters. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true, but I understand your issue. Because,
it is.
Yeah,
but you just don't know it, and you guys don't investigate it. Listen to this. Just this week, if you look on the Gateway Pundit, there's been a big reveal in Michigan exactly how they do the steal, how they sell the votes, what they do is they do the midnight vote ballot harvesting. And then they sell the local votes to the highest bidder. So they get all the votes gathered up, and then at midnight they bid to see who's going to win the election. And they go to these minority communities, they take the votes, and they actually buy their way in. And it's all on video by Project Veritas. Have you seen it?
Who fills out the ballots then if we're buying them? Because you have to fill them out afterwards.
Does.
Yeah, but how does the mechanism? So they gather a whole bunch of blank ballots and they sell them to candidates, and the candidates fill them out?
Yes, and that's on video. You can go and watch how they did thousands of local votes. Thousands. Think about it.
The only thing that I'm a little skeptical on that one, and I have not seen that video, so I can't comment on that one, is I was told that there was vote stealing and fake votes that were brought out from underneath a table in Georgia, and that turned out not to be true. And I was told there were pallets and pallets of votes that were stolen that were delivered to Pennsylvania,
it was true.
And that wasn't stolen. And so, but the number of things that have happened haven't been proven.
Just like the missing ballots in Atlanta. Time heals all wounds. They disappear. Everybody disappears. The votes themselves get burned. The doors left open of a vote storage area, and they're gone. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But let's get away from the elections, because you and I could do that for hours and hours, and we have both on air and off air, and it's been a lot of fun. But let's come back to Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Trump, JD Vance. Joe, hang on a second, Joe. What I want to know is, I want to put you in the advisory position of the Donald Trump campaign. How do you advise the Trump campaign to go after Kamala and Tim Walz? What's the messaging you put out today?
JD Vance will destroy Tim Walz, because Tim Walz is basically a communist puppet being orchestrated by the machine of Obama and Kamala and Biden. If you don't think so, again, I point you out to Kamala's congratulations to the Venezuela people for voting in Maduro again, even though everybody in Venezuela knows that it was won by the opposition by 70%. What they're doing is they're saying, see, this is how you steal an election. They're virtue signaling to the communists in our country on how to steal the election here.
Yeah, that's interesting. The only problem with that is with the Maduro thing and being Maduro's the authoritarian. Maduro would be on the conservative side. And so if he's the one stealing it, then it would be the dude you're going to vote for, Joe. But I'm really happy that Mom's doing okay. Always, anytime anybody's going through a diabetic crisis, that does take priority. Joe had to step away earlier. That's why we brought him back later on in the show. I want to hear from you. Is Joe right? Is Kamala Harris, is Tim Walz just another march towards communism or socialism in our country? And why is that a bad thing? I'm curious why you feel that way. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. More importantly, what problem does Tim Walz solve for Kamala Harris? Normally, your Veep pick solves a problem, shores up a weakness you have with the electorate. For my mind, I can't figure out what's the weakness that Tim Walz solves for. I can't see that math problem that how at the end we come out with electoral win for Democrats. I can see how an addition of J.D. Vance into the system comes out with we get a win for the GOP and for Donald Trump. The math with Harris and Walz doesn't make sense to me. Why do you think that Kamala picked Tim Walz? And why in the heck wasn't it Shapiro, given everything we had heard over the past week? There was a video that was supposedly leaked over the weekend showing that Shapiro was going to be the pick. Do you think that was wrong, or was something discovered in the past 48 hours that changed this? And then it had to become Walz. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. Bill Thorpe sitting in alone, Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. News Talk 710 KNUS. Jeff and Bill show. Bill Thorpe flying solo. Jeff Hunt out hanging out with the family. It is Mrs. Jeff's birthday. They are doing something special together as a family, and it's fantastic. And I will always do whatever I can to make sure that life does not interfere with what goes on behind this microphone. So myself, Adam Walker, behind the glass, doing 2 jobs. Today, is he getting paid extra? No, not at all. But I will let him help me clean out the fridge on Friday, because that's my bonus. Every other week, I get to clean out and eat whatever's left in the fridge. So, they think of the little things for me. 303-696-1971. We still have about a minute or so if you want to get in. 303-696-1971. Tim Walz is now the vice presidential nominee for Kamala Harris. For the life of me, I can't figure out what problem he solves. What does he show her up? Were they worried about Minnesota? Could the Democrats really be scared about a growing anti-Israel sentiment in the party? Right now, it's on the fringes. Right now, it's on the edge. The blowback Biden was getting for his support of Netanyahu in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Is this a signal that the Democrats are exactly who the Republicans have been saying over the previous 6 months? That they aren't as tied to Israel, that they're not strong supporters of Zionism, that they won't support that community or the only real functioning democracy in the Middle East. Has Kamala Harris made the first mistake of her early presidential run? We won't know more until tomorrow, next couple of days. And we'll see how the stock market does today. Again, highs of 95. Try to stay cool. We've got a little bit of scattered showers across the metro area. Overnight lows of 63. Tomorrow going to be 90, but dropping to 75 by Friday. Luckily, Jeff's going to be back and rein me in. Don't let me go so crazy. And again, I got to go talk to the people in charge because this went well. 710 KNUS. Have a good day.